Okay, how about now? I'm going to use my webcam's audio instead. It's not quite as good as my usual mic, but that might be better off in this instance. um, that's better. Cool. Yeah, sorry about that. Very odd there, but that's my bad. But no, I hope you guys can hear me okay. I hope you guys are doing all right. In case you guys didn't know already, I'm Dre. Good to see you. I hope you guys are doing all right. Yeah, forgive me on that one. It's been a little while. But yeah, good to see you. Gonna pop the chat out real quick. Yeah, cool. I'm gonna put that up on the side. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done this, so I'm a bit rusty. I think my settings are a bit different because how I record the show is a bit different to how I record on a live stream. But yeah, I hope you guys are doing all right. Let me know how you're doing. Good to see you. I see you guys in the chat. It's Mimi. Hello. Davia, good to see you. Hi, Rahul. Scott Black 44, good to see you. If I know you guys from somewhere, do let me know. I know I've chatted to you before on Twitter, Bavia. I know same for you, Rahul. It's Mimi. I don't recognize a YouTube account for. I don't recognize you. If I do know you from somewhere else, let me know because that's always easier. But yeah. But good to see you. I hope you guys are all doing all right. But yeah, let me know how you guys are doing. Normally, I just do this every once in a while just to answer questions, have a chat, talk some motorsport, all that fun stuff. And yeah, just hope you guys are cool and whatnot, and we can talk about some shit. And yeah, hopefully it'll be a fun couple of hours. That's all. The time goes like that, honestly. Like when you get some good conversation going and there's enough folks in the chat. But yeah, I hope you guys are doing all right. Luckily from the server, I go from Rexo on there. Oh gosh, the problem with that is that everybody changes their username so much that I still don't know who's who half the time. Honestly, I lose track of it sometimes because we've got like 30 people in our Discord now, like more than that, I'd actually argue. Let me have a look here real quick. Yeah, 50. We've got like 60 odd people. It's crazy. But yeah, keep me posted on all of that. Also, my phone's at 3%, which isn't exactly helpful right now, but we'll figure it out. But yeah, cool. This is very guilty. To be fair, my man, like everybody is on our Discord. Like most people don't go more than 2 days without changing their username, so I completely understand how that feels. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Like I'm one of the few guys who don't do that every time round, but I get what you mean. Definitely get what you mean. So Bavia, see you in the chat there. Sponsor this upgraded version of the Man United kit you're wearing there. I don't know. I guess I like zebra print. That was not my intention because there was a bit of whatchamacallit. There was a bit of that. I had some crumbs on the shirt I was originally going to wear, so I thought I'd get changed real quick and try and save a bit of the embarrassment. But yeah, instead I've gone for the risky zebra print this time round. Thought it was quite spicy. Nick, good to see you. Good to see you. Hope you're doing all right, buddy. Hi, Shivam. Good to see you. Hope you're doing all right. Jordan asking the first proper question of the day. Good to see you. Can Ferrari still get P3 in the constructors? Probably not. Is my initial impression. I say that. I mean, I'm going to pull up the constructor standings on my phone just so I can see exactly what the state of play is here. Well, I have a rough idea of what it looks like, but I'm just going to pull it up real quick on my phone. So, Racing Point are currently third on 154. McLaren on 149. Renault on 136, who only scored 1 point this weekend. And then Ferrari are on 130. It's a big ask for Ferrari, is the impression that I go by, and I still stick to that. I haven't seen the leaderboard now. Because, unfortunately, Sebastian Vettel at this point in his time in F1 is not a regular point scorer. Charles Leclerc is getting near or not the maximum that Ferrari can get out most weekends. He was a bit sloppier this weekend, but that was kind of a blip in the context of the overall season. So it's that much more of a harder job when you've only got one reliable car in the points. And even then, pretty much everybody else around Ferrari has at least one better scorer or two consistently decent scorers. Like Racing Point, on a good weekend, Stroll and Perez will get in the points. If Renault have a good day, Daniel Ricciardo might get on the podium. And Charles Leclerc's he's been a bit jammy to get a couple of them as well. But for the most part, I think Renault's got a better car than Ferrari right now, and I think Racing Point and Ferrari. So Racing Point and McLaren have better cars than Ferrari do right now. So as far as I'm concerned, I think Ferrari are not going to finish third. I think 5th or 6th is where they will most likely end up. I don't trust Ferrari as far as I can throw them. I have more confidence that Racing Point and McLaren is the true heavy-duty fight for third place. And Rahul makes a good point in the chat as well. It's like they've got Bahrain next. Two heavy straight-based circuits with high top speed, and one of Ferrari's biggest weaknesses this year has been straight-line speed. And we're going into Bahrain next, including a oval-esque round in 3 weeks' time. So good luck as far as I'm concerned. I'm not convinced on that one. And as Cam points out, hi Cam, good to see you. That is Cameron Buckley, my co-host from Motorsport 101 in the chat, so say hi to him if you're a regular listener. As I grab a drink out of my fridge. Ferrari tends to do a bit better when they can save stops and when they can save strategy, when they can out-strategize other teams around them. When they don't do that, that's when they're going to end up 8, 9, 10, 11, that sort of area. And like I said, I don't have faith in Vettel being a regular point scorer anymore, which is only going to make the task that much harder for him. And yeah, I agree with everyone else in the chat saying similar thing. Ferrari probably have the 6th best car on paper. If they can strategize well, if they can save a stop here and there, they might be able to get up and punch a little bit higher than what they normally do. But you can't expect that week to week. That's not going to happen every single time. Turkey, in the context of this season, was a fluke. That's not the norm for Ferrari to be batting 3rd and 4th. McLaren was sloppy by their standards, although they did pull it back towards the end of that race. Racing Point should have had both cars on the podium, really. They were unlucky not to. I know Perez kind of saved their bacon by getting 18 points in 2nd. It makes up for Stroll maybe punching a little bit below his weight. But we'll have to wait and see. But I think it's between Racing Point and McLaren, and that could go either way. Renault might get involved if Ocon can start scoring points more frequently. But yeah, the Bahrain outer layout, is a bitch, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody, as far as I'm concerned. Hi Vic, good to see you. Let's have a look here. What am I expecting of Vettel next season? Relief, more than anything else. Look, I'm not expecting much, is the overall conclusion that I draw from this. Racing Point and what will inevitably be Aston Martin. Look, they're a good team. They're a very good team. They, on paper, are the best of the midfielders right now. But it is such a big jump to the big two. And I assume that Ferrari will get their shit together. Maybe not next year, but the year after, once the new regulations come into play. That can make their life that much harder a couple of years away if Ferrari are able to build a decent 2022 car. As Cam points out, I'm in agreement with Cam here. If they build the team around Sebastian, then I think they'll do very well. And apparently, Vettel's already said, look, I'm going to link up with the team in January. Like, I will get in there, get right in the fabric of the team and, get in there on a day-to-day basis and see what's going on. He did this at Ferrari as well. He was very meticulous about going in there, seeing the setup, starting to build plans out of the box. That's that sort of style and approach. And when Ferrari did that initially, Ferrari were excellent. When they built the team around Seb, they were fantastic. So if Racing Point or Aston Martin see that and think of their old Ferrari approach, there's no reason why they can't be on the podium. The car is capable of doing that on a good day. On a good day, they can challenge for podiums. I mean, Stroll should have had a podium back at Monza. Like, Perez got a podium yesterday. Stroll should have been on the podium again this weekend, was unlucky not to. Like, every element of what we've seen in Formula One for his career suggests that if you give Vettel free rein, good things happen. We saw it at Red Bull, we saw it at Ferrari, and we can see it in other places. And yeah, you guys are all right. Like, Stroll probably should have won yesterday. He was unlucky not to with that front wing damage, apparently. Don't know where he got it from. It could have been anything. I don't think there's conclusive evidence to suggest where he got the damage. So, yeah, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt and just say that it was just a rotten bit of luck for Racing Point more than anything else. Hi, Mahiri. Good to see you. Lewis is here. Hello, sir. Good to see you, my man. You're the second person that's pointed out the shirts. It's not exactly the United third kit. I'll be completely honest, I was tempted to wear it for this stream, but if you believe certain Twitter rumors, it has Mason Greenwood's name on the back of the shirt, and probably for the best I don't feature him too prominently. I am sitting forward, so you probably wouldn't be able to tell otherwise, but it's a Mason Greenwood shirt, so I'm being a bit careful on that one, at least until we know for sure who was in that Premier League story the other day. Damn, 21 of you in here now. Excellent. Good to see you guys. Say hi if you haven't already. Mahiri, good to see you, man. Hope you're doing all right. CP3 to the Suns. Could be interesting. Not the biggest basketball man in the world, but that could be... That's a pretty good Phoenix team. Hi, Sid. Good to see you, man. I think that's Michael Carterman. I see up there a little bit as well with Seb and Pirelli. Good to see you, man. Vic, hi. Good to see you. Oh, shouts to Aprilia, Dre. Thoughts. You could do a lot worse than Chaz Davis, is what I would say in response to that. And look, regardless of a man in here who may or may not work for the social media outlet for said company, Chaz is a very good rider, and Dorna are going to want a British influence in the top flight of the sport. They like having riders of certain backgrounds in certain sports. Like for example, they wanted Johann Zarco quite badly in the top flight because they wanted to get more publicity in France, and France are big bike fans. So having Zarco up there a few years ago was great for the sport. And Crutchlow is no longer going to be a full-timer next year. That's now confirmed, given he's going to be, going to be Yamaha's test rider. Beyond that, British hopes are looking a bit scarce at the moment. Aprilia are not going to re-sign Sam Lowes, even though he's got a very good chance of winning the Moto2 Championship in 2 weeks' time. Jake Dixon has improved massively this year, but is still probably a year away from being a MotoGP contender for a promoted seat. Beyond that, you're looking at World Superbikes, because there isn't really anyone prolific who's British that's a contender for those seats. John McPhee is going to be in Moto3 again next year. And then you're looking at World Superbikes, and Chaz Davis is a World Championship runner-up. He's a top 4 or 5 dude in the series. Has been for half a decade now. You could do a lot worse than Chaz, and at least he's raced in that ladder before as a 250 rider. So it's not like he's a complete nobody or unknown to the MotoGP ladder. But as Cam points out, if you're Chaz Davis, do you really want that job? Like, do you really want to be the second rider at an Aprilia team next to a very grumpy Alicia Spargaro on a bike that is the only one in the field still on concessions because they're not competitive compared to the rest of the field? Like, Alicia gave him a little bit of hope yesterday in Valencia, but, like, it's looking like Aprilia are getting a little better where they can run in the top 10 without suffering nosebleeds. But they're still a long way off where they need to be. This has been the most unpredictable MotoGP season maybe ever. And Aprilia are like the one constant that have been middle of the road, to say the least. So good luck with that, as far as I'm concerned. But if you're Chaz, I'm not sure you want that job. Sid asking, what about Alex Lowe's? Alex is not bad, but Alex just signed an extension at Kawasaki. And why would you want to walk away from the best team in World Superbikes to go to a bottom feeder MotoGP team? I don't understand why you do that. Like, do you really want to go in a series where you're competing for wins to go to another series where you're going to be fighting for minor points at best? Like, there's no hope in... Like, this was meant to be the year of hope for Aprilia. Alicia Spargaro was spitting all that noise at the start of the year about Aprilia, saying, oh, the bike feels amazing, it's really fast this year, it's the best bike I've ever been on, it's going to be amazing, and then, like, I think one top 10 finish the whole season. One. Like, it's not great, to say the least. Let me have a quick butchers. Just going to plot the MotoGP standings real quick. Just so I can confirm what my hunch here. I think Aprilia has had one top 10 all year. Oh no, to be fair, they have 2 top 10s because Alicia was 9th yesterday at Valencia. So that was their best result of the year. Believe it or not. Only the second time all year they've been in 9th. They are stone dead last of the team standings with 46 points. And they've had 3 different riders this year. Lorenzo Savadori's not going to magically get them points. So, you know, beats me on that one. Like Avintia, I've got nearly twice as many points of them this year, and that's mostly down to Johann Zarco. Yeah, so I didn't know about his extension. Yeah, I remember when Aprilia was Grassini Honda and they were semi-competitive. I do too. I miss Alvaro Bautista being a regular top 5 runner. Those days were fun. Like, I honestly don't know why Aprilia are still here. Like, it's great for the sport that we've got 6 manufacturers in it now, but Aprilia are just dragging their knees through the mud. Like, every time they make gains, everybody else around them makes gains, so what's the point? If a manufacturer quits in the next 5 years, it'll be them. Without a doubt. Everybody else has got a good reason to be there. There's hope and there's promise in the other factories that are in MotoGP. KTM made massive strides. Honda are Honda. Yamaha are Yamaha. Ducati are Ducati. Those big 3 are always going to be around. They got bikes to sell. Like, Suzuki are probably going to win the Triple Crown, or at least have a serious shot at winning the Triple Crown. You know, I think there's still the Manufacturers' Championship will probably go to the wire at Portimao. But I think they've won the team standings as well. But, you know, yeah, just double checking the board now. They're actually dead level. Suzuki and Ducati are tied for the Manufacturers' Championship on 201 points each. So that will go to the wire. Whoever has the higher placing bike at Portimao, which is going to be a crapshoot, whoever does the better between them, they'll win the Constructors' Championship. Suzuki have won the team standings because they're 79 points clear with only 45 on the table for first and second. So, yeah, Suzuki have got a pretty good shot of the Triple Crown. It depends on who finishes higher between them and Ducati on the final leg. Yamaha, I think, is 13 points back. So Yamaha technically has still got a shot, but I think 13 points is too many to make up. For Moto E? Yeah, they might do. As a sponsor, I guess. Or to sponsor a bike. Because Energicia, I think, is what builds the Moto E bike. They're just bigger and batteries and all that good stuff. Hi, Declan. Good to see you, man. And no, Jorge Lorenzo doesn't want those problems either. Like, I know Mahiri's in the comments saying about, oh, I know Lorenzo might. Lorenzo won't. Like, I don't think, and this is going to sound controversial, I don't think Lorenzo's got the stomach for full-time competition anymore. This year was not a good look for Lorenzo in the PR stakes. He's been very candid about it on Twitter, to be fair. His story, I think, was along the lines of COVID cancelled my plans. Whereas Valentino Rossi said publicly on the record that the man was not race fit or not fit to test, which is a scathing report. Alicia Spagaro said it when he did the Portimao test as well, that he said that Lorenzo's level wasn't good enough anymore. So it looks like Lorenzo's been enjoying his pseudo-retirement a bit too much, is what the accounts say. And look, if that was the case, and if it wasn't the case, then they wouldn't have signed Cal Crutchlow as a test rider. That's the point that I wanted to make. And Cal was very fast on a Yamaha back in the day, so I don't see any reason why Cal wouldn't be a great fit for that team as a tester. Certainly, you could do a lot worse for testing names than a top 8 guy in the field when fully healthy. If I was Aprilia, I'd back someone younger, says Lewis. DG Antonio is probably their best bet since he's going back to Gresini next year. That's a good shout, Lewis. That's a good shout. Feel bad for DG, though, man. That crash yesterday when he was with half a lap from glory, his first Moto2 win, and he bins it. I was like, oh. We were in the middle of the chaos of Formula 1 when that race was happening, and then I just quickly peer over to my computer screen, which had the Moto2 race on with BT Sport, and then seeing DG Antonio park it, and I'm just like, oh, god damn it. Great race, though, I have to say. Check it out if you haven't already. But that's actually not a bad shout, given the Gresini ties there. DG, he could do a lot worse than DG, who I think could be a title contender next year. Let's have a look here. Alfie saying, Do you think Sky Sports having sole broadcasting rights for F1 in the UK and F1 being behind a paywall in general is dangerous for its future? Yes. Short answer. Short answer is yes. There is not much good you get from a sport being behind a paywall. I get it. Broadcasters have got to have got to get their crust. They need to have something on their channels to encourage people to spend money on them. I understand that, but you are not going to get new fans to the sport behind a paywall. That's just not going to happen. Like, you will always stand to gain more fans from your product being on free-to-air. I know for a fact that when MotoGP was on BBC Two back in the day, and it was free-to-air, they were getting about 1 million viewers a race. That went down to about 200,000 when they went to BT Sport. Now, don't get me wrong, if BT and the BBC in general has cut down on their live sport, so I understand to a degree that someone had to pick them up, and I'm glad that somebody did. But BT Sport is the biggest rip-off on British TV at 25 quid a month. You pay 25 quid a month for 3 channels, and they've got some Premier League games, the UFC, and I think women's tennis is on BT Sport. I think they've got the WTA on there. That's the big stuff on their platform. Like, MotoGP is genuinely like one of their 2 or 3 biggest sellers on their network. And that's not a diss at MotoGP because it's a fucking great sport. But the average sports fan is not going to be spending 25 quid a month just for that set of channels. Oh, don't forget the WWE, Dre. Child, please. Don't forget the WWE. That's cute. Yeah, like, and then they're not exactly bristling with popularity at the moment, the WWE, to say the least. Oh, and the Champions League. Yeah, that's their number 1 seller. They've got the Champions League football exclusively. What else are you paying £25 a month for? And, yeah. Snazzy shirt. Thank you, sir. But look, you need products on free-to-air to gain fans. You're not going to get them behind a paywall. The only exceptions are sports that are already massively established, like football. People will pay money for football. It's a proven model that works. Unless it's a pay-per-view game. But, like, MotoGP doesn't have that sort of following. Formula 1, even, its following is dwindling because less and less people are willing to pay for it, and more markets are going to go behind paywalls, and it just means less people are going to end up watching the product. Britain has had F1 off free-to-air now since 2013. In terms of full-time coverage, I think that was the first year we had Sky. Or Sky Sports F1, I should say. I'm trying to think who else we've got here now. Cricket is a big one. Like, the growth of cricket has died in this country because the last major series, like Sid points out in the comments, we had the Ashes on Channel 4 in 2005. The sport immediately went behind a paywall. And somebody asked me once, and when I had a Curious Cat page, was like, Dre, why aren't we talking about Jimmy Anderson getting a knighthood? And I said, because people in this country don't care about cricket as much as they did 20 years ago. Because he's like, people talk about who's the greatest British athlete ever. You could put Jimmy Anderson in that debate right now with 600 Test wickets to his name. But how much of those wickets did we actually watch, or people actually got to see live? Not anywhere near as many people that saw the 2005 Ashes that transcended the sport. So, you know, paywalls suck, but unfortunately, less and less people are spending money on TV in general because Netflix is around, Amazon Prime is around, Hulu is around in the United States. Everyone's streaming shit. So people have not got the disposable income. The pound doesn't stretch as far as it used to. So people are getting picky and choosy about what to spend their money on. The reality is that there's not a lot of good that paywalls do. I know it's better than not having the sport broadcasted at all, but you know, it happens. Also, forgive me if you get any background noise. The neighbours 2 doors down are launching fireworks. I know it's Diwali, but like I think it's a little bit annoying given Diwali was, I think, 2 days ago, but they've still found some spare fireworks. But bear with me, I've got to respect it. Until 11 PM, then they're breaking the law. It's 6:35 here in the UK, so that's a bit annoying, but, you know, what can you do? Should catch up in the comments. Mark comes back and he's healthy, he wins. Yeah, probably. Congrats to Joe Mir, by the way, man. Like, anyone that says he doesn't deserve his championship, like, can go fuck themselves. Comfortably the best rider in the field this year. The only real modicum of consistency in the championship, and, you know, well played to him. Oh, today's New Year's. Okay, fair enough. Didn't realise that. Thanks for the clarification there. You could tell I was really bad at religious studies when I was in school. Yeah, but, you know. Like I said, congrats to Mir. He's awesome. You know, did a brilliant job and whatnot. I'm sure we'll talk about it a bit more later on. Yeah, like I say, the main issue with paywalls is that 99% of the time it's the same as the free-to-air broadcast, just behind the paywall. If it offers more like what F1 TV does, I don't think people will mind. Yeah, look, Mike's spot on. Look, if the model is good and worth the money, people will pay for it. Like, that's always been the case. If you've proven you've got a good product, people will spend £100 a season on your content. Like, that's not the issue. The issue is that people are not going to be able to justify spending like £15 for one Sky Sports channel, which most of the time is airing repeats. Like, take it from me, I'm a big cricket fan. The IPL had been and gone, and it just finished up last Tuesday. And like, Sky Sports Cricket, when it's not like airing live stuff, it has to fill in so much of the same repetitive content they've got to justify having a 24-hour rolling channel. It's like, it really is not worth the money, but you're paying for the live stuff, you're not paying for the archive, so I guess that also makes sense. And to answer your question as well, Sil, I did see that. By law in the United Kingdom, the British Grand Prix has to be on free-to-air. It's why Sky gives that one away for free every year. They'll normally stick it on Sky One, or they'll put it on Sky Sports Mix, which I think everybody gets on Freeview. But the British Grand Prix is one of like 3 sports events in the country that by law has to be aired on every television in the country. The British Grand Prix is one, Wimbledon finals are the second one, and the FA Cup final is the third. Anything else is fair game, apparently. You can actually see the fireworks outside my window, funnily enough. Just a little bit. I even saw rumours of Dovi taking Mark's seat for 2021. Well, yeah, you know, this is how you know Marc Marquez has made it now, when he's got people randomly speculating about his future now. Like, that's how you know the man has gotten there. He's now almost reaching like Rossi levels of popularity because people just don't know what the state of his arm actually is. So they're gonna now start splicing pictures together frame by frame. That it might be something else, but just wait for the official press releases, man. Like, I love him, but Simon Patterson's word is not gospel, okay? Like 90% of the time. But I know a couple people asked me about Maverick and Fabio and whatnot. Like, I think it was Matt Roberts that put out on Twitter that, the Yamaha needs to, you know, hire a sports psychologist. And I'm not a psychologist. I'm not paid or trained to analyze people's mental health or mental status, especially when they're taking part in an incredibly intense motorsport series. it's hard not to argue that Fabio might have collapsed a little bit under the pressure. I think he knew that his title probably had slipped away at Aragon, and they were starting to change everything around on that Yamaha M1, the 2020 version that Fabio is riding, and nothing was working. I think that's probably a bigger reason as to why Fabio had quote-unquote collapsed. He's had issues with the brakes all year. Like we saw that in Styria. I think a lot of it, I think it's like 70% mechanical and setup with Fabio, and I think it's 30% mental. And it is just all over. Like, because that 2020 Yamaha is a lot like Honda in 2015, as Lewis points out as well in the chat. That bike it's got a very narrow operating window. It's no coincidence that Frankie Morbidelli was a title contender this year and made a massive leap forward and won 3 Grand Prix. The 2019 Yamaha is a more stable bike. And this is not a diss on Frankie, because Frankie's one of the riders of the year as far as I'm concerned. Like, if it wasn't for Mir, like, I think Frankie would be rider of the year, no doubt. Like, 3 wins on a 2019 Yamaha, mad impressive. Like, mad impressive. And there is still significant weaknesses in that Yamaha. It's got a very narrow operating window. If its tyres don't work, it's in big trouble. They messed around with the brakes on numerous settings. They got the valve situation wrong, and it cost them manufacturers points. It will probably cost it. I'm not going to say if. It has cost them the Constructors' Championship this year in MotoGP, because they lost 50 points on that. And they would have had a 30-plus point lead in that championship if it wasn't for the valve issues that they broke the rules on. Performance enhancements or not. They broke the rules. But, yeah, I think there's also a little bit at play that Fabio needs to calm down. And, look, we said this about Marc Marquez in year 2 of Marc, even when he won championships. Like, we said it in 2015. Like, if Marc dials it down, like, 1 notch, he'll be fine. It's not the first time I've heard or described the rider as needing to maybe take 1 or 2 steps back and find themselves. Like, Marquez had that problem. God rest his soul. Marco Simoncelli had that problem when he was a younger rider. You know, and it doesn't help, as Cam points out, that Marc Marquez can override a motorcycle's faults better than any bike rider in history. And I don't think these riders want to admit it. Everybody is looking at Marc. Everybody looks at Marc. I'll say 90% of the field looks at Marc. They've seen what he's done on a bike that we know isn't great. We know is another bike that's on the knife edge. They've seen what he can do on a motorcycle, and are now realizing, well, maybe if we ride like him, then that might fix some of the problems. You know? So there's a lot of little things you can look at it. Look, Fabio is an emotional young man, and that's healthy. I'm glad that he cares so much. I'm glad that he gives enough of a shit to where we can see him upset on live television. He should be. You know, I like that in a guy, and he will bounce back. He is an immensely talented rider. Like, his raw speed is about the only thing that can match Marquez on just raw pace alone. But once he refines and irons out a couple of kinks in his game, he's going to be a tremendous guy to watch. He's a fantastic talent. As Cam points out in the chat, Honda has the holy grail of MotoGP, a device to control front tyre slides. It's called Marc Marquez. Yeah, that pretty much is it. Yeah, Lorenzo had a similar problem when he was younger. Yeah, you're right, Harry. Yeah, Lorenzo had a bit of that too. Lorenzo nearly retired after 2 years in the sport because he was getting dinged up so much. Once he got his shit together, though. Marquez has been the only rider better than him in the last decade. And yeah, as Lewis points out, we are talking about a 21-year-old man here. 21. Second year in the class. And he's already got 3 wins to his name and will be probably top 4 in the championship this year. He'll be just fine. Although I did say last year he will not get the pass he got last year for not winning a race. But it's relative at the end of the day. Rahul saying, why didn't they reduce the points from Yamahas in the driver standings and only constructors? I can't say for sure because they don't reveal these big explanations as to why they do this, and this in the rulebook. But if I had to guess, it was because the valves were not proven to directly benefit the Yamaha's performance. It happened to Taka Nakagami with an air filter in Moto2 a few years ago where he raced in Qatar. I think he finished second that day in the race, but was then disqualified because he had an air filter that wasn't legal. It didn't actually increase the bike's performance, but because it was still a violation of the rules, he had to be disqualified. And if they'd have found this Haref engine fault at the time, they would have been disqualified from that result too. They let him quote unquote keep the wins, but they took the points away. So, you know, that's probably the reason why. I reckon if those Yamahas were proven to have gained a performance by running the air filters that they had or running the valves that they had, then I think they would have taken riders' points away as well, but they didn't. So they've squared the blame solely on Yamaha because the riders ultimately didn't benefit from them. That's the logic that I would apply to the situation. Could be wrong, but that's how I look at it anyway. Who complaining about 21, Nick? I'm 28. How do you think I feel? I mean, really. Yeah, Suzuki, spot on with Cam's comments as always. Just doesn't punish mistakes, that Suzuki, and that's why it's so good. That the operating window is so goddamn big. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Lewis is spot on as well. No sport likes to affect the rider/driver points retrospectively for technical breaches. See Spygate in 07. Yeah, that's an absolutely fair assessment. Like, you don't really want to fuck with it after it's already happened, especially given this breach happened, 5 months ago? Nearly 5 months ago? Let them keep the wins. Let the riders keep the wins because they didn't ultimately benefit from this technical breach. Punish the team for getting it wrong. Makes sense to me. Do you think Yuki Tsunoda will be on the F1 grid next season, says Nick? Probably, is what I would say. Yuki, I think I'm hearing conflicting reports about what he needs to be eligible for a super license. Apparently, he needs top 6. I always thought it was 4. If it's 4, it narrows the window a bit because he's got to be a little bit careful because I think he's got a 6-point advantage on the chasing pack, which I believe is Schwartzman, Mazepin, and I think somebody else. But assuming he gets it, I think he's done enough. I'm with Cam. I think he's done enough where AlphaTauri will run him out of curiosity. Look, Kvyat suffers from what I like to call known quantity-itis. And we know who Kvyat is. Kvyat is a good driver who is largely a bit mediocre. When everything's clicking for Kvyat, he gets good results every once in a while, but he's not a guy you can ride to the bank with. And I think Red Bull have probably done a permanent number on his confidence, given he's been in and out of the sport twice over, chopped from teams already once before. Like, Kvyat's, we know who Kvyat is. And that might be a get-out-of-jail-free card for Alex Albon if they decide to move on from him in the Red Bull setup, which we'll have to wait and see on. But it's looking like they'll go to Checo if they drop Albon. But I think Tsunoda will end up in the second seat alongside Pierre Gasly. Soda's good. He's a good driver, and he's had good moments and good flashpoints in Formula 2 this year. I can understand the curiosity to give him a shot and see how he goes. So yeah. Oh yeah, Christian Lingard's the other one. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. Yeah, Lingard, the other guy in the chasing group. I think Yuki needs top 6. He'll probably get there unless the 2 Bahrain races are a disaster. We'll have to wait and see. But I think he'll be there. Speaking of Red Bull, who is your best candidate for the second seat, says Casey. Probably Checo. It's hard to argue that a man that is 4th in the Drivers' Championship right now, despite having missed 2 rounds, brackets, due to his own negligence, close brackets, it's hard to argue that Checo isn't really, really goddamn good. And of all the free agents that are left on the board, Checo is the number 1 pick. Comfortably. Like, I will openly admit, I am a fan of Nico Hülkenberg. But at the same time, anyone arguing Hülkenberg over Perez is just, I think, wrong at this point. Like Checo is brilliant. He's still a brilliant driver. He's never not been anything less than excellent, really. And he deserves to be on this grid. He's a top 10 driver on this grid, comfortably. You know, maybe even top 6 or 7. Like, he should be in that Racing Point seat at a minimum when it comes to quality of seat. If he gets the Red Bull seat, I ain't complaining. I don't think anybody's complaining. He's a brilliant driver. And it would be the top tier seat on paper that Perez has always deserved. He should have, like, he was very unlucky to have ended up at McLaren the moment the wheels fell off that team in 2013. And if he wasn't already number 1 contender, finishing 2nd in Turkey yesterday was the absolute game changer. Like, 2013, Perez was really unlucky because he was inferior to Jenson Button that year. And then McLaren got the itch with their driver academy. And apparently it went down to a coin flip between him and Kevin Magnussen for that 2014 McLaren seat. And it ended up, I think all their engineers allegedly all of them got into a circle, had a vote, and then Kevin ended up getting the seat over Checo. And he was very unlucky on that sense, because I think Perez is a better driver than Kevin Magnussen, and I think he always has been. But, you know, that's the unfortunate nature. Like, timing is everything in this game. Everything. So, you know, if you get it wrong timing-wise, it can have, you know, catastrophic consequences on your career. So, you know. But yeah, I think Perez should get it. If it's not Perez, if he does something else, like goes to IndyCar or something. Pardon me. Got melon soda in my flask, so I'm a little bit gassy. But no, I was going to say is that if it's not Perez, you could do a lot worse than Hülkenberg, but he's not Checo. And Checo's the man. Yeah, Sid. Yeah, I get what you mean about Johan Ruvula. I get what you mean. He has struggled a little bit by comparison. It doesn't help when Yuki's just come in and been so good, and it's made Ruvula look a bit bad by comparison. Totally get what you mean. Let's have a look. Yeah, just checking. Dropped a vid on my other channel titled Red Bull is F1's most overrated team. Do you agree, or is there another team more overrated? It's not that Red Bull are over or underrated. It's just their position is not one of consequence. I figured it out the other day talking to King about this a couple of months back. Like, Red Bull has basically been the same team since 2014. Second or third in the Constructors' Championship, and they'll be good for maybe 2 or 3 wins a year. That's their team. Like, that's what it's been. Like, since 2014. They've not won more than 3 races in a season since the V6 era began. Like, they've not really had anyone challenge for the title either. Verstappen last year was as close as they've come to that, and they're still way off on being a threat for the Mercedes team every weekend. The problem is that don't look at Red Bull as Red Bull. Look at it as Arden Formula One team, and then you realise that it doesn't really matter, like, what happens with Red Bull as a team. Like, Massachusetts, who owns Red Bull as a brand, is more than happy to pump them a certain amount of money every year to keep the doors open, as long as they're doing okay. Like, this top 2, top 3 spot they're in right now is fine for them to sustain themselves. Horner is never going to lose his job. It's basically his team. It's his team, and Dr. Marco makes all the hard decisions. And again, those are established, long-time running, Red Bull veterans, And, yeah, that's just who they are at this point. So, yeah, they're overrated because they always seem to get a pass for being middle of the road every year. But, when I say overrated, I don't mean by those watching. I meant by how Red Bull see themselves and how they treat their drivers. Yes and no. Like, they are generally very harsh with how they treat their drivers. I mean, look, you don't need me to tell you that the Pierre Gasly switch was completely stupid, and Albon will probably be out of the sport next year, which is just sad in its own right that those scenarios have been a direct result of Red Bull just moving talent out the front door, and I think to a degree sacrificing talent to appease Max Verstappen. And don't get me wrong, there is justification for some of that because Verstappen is a top 3 driver in the sport. Like, he's certainly second or third. I think you could argue between him and Leclerc for the number 2 spot, pound for pound, right now. But it's annoying because Verstappen's won 9 Grand Prix. He's a really, really damn good driver. So to an extent, I get why they've done it. But at the same time, the biggest crippler to that Red Bull team was that they never replaced Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo, at worst, was an excellent number 2 scorer. He was 95% of what Verstappen was in the same outfit. And they could have had Carlos Sainz Jr., but they didn't tie him up, so Carlos left the academy. Like, Pierre Gasly was not that second scorer that they wanted him to be, so they got rid of him. They quickly cut rid of him and thought that Albon might be the ticket. Albon is not the ticket. I feel a bit bad for Albon because he was put in a lose-lose scenario. It was an impossible scenario for him to look good in, as far as I'm concerned, given that, it's the number 2 Red Bull seat is maybe the most toxic seat in the sport. And that's just how it is, because Red Bull only knows how to build around one man at a time. It worked, and the reason why I think that is because it worked with Sebastian. It worked with Sebastian, Mark Webber be damned. And they were so far ahead of everybody else for the most part, for at least for 2 of those 4 years, that it didn't matter if Mark Webber was mediocre. Then they stumbled into Ricciardo and got lucky with him for a couple of years. Then they got Verstappen tied down, and then they sacrificed everything in the academy to make it work for Max. And their one driver policy is what's worked for them, but you're not going to beat a juggernaut number one team like Mercedes with only one valuable scorer. You need two. You need two dudes, because Valtteri Bottas, for all the shit we sling him on the internet, is still clearly second in the championship. So you need two good scorers, because if you're anything less than spectacular in the number 2 seat, you're not beating the number 2 Mercedes, man, let alone the number 1. So, factoring all of that into account, Red Bull needs to change their approach. And this year looks like it might be the first time they're going to do that if they end up bringing in Sergio Perez. And yeah, I wouldn't like. I know Cam was saying, it's not clear, but look, points are points at the end of the day. Look, I think Bottas is ropey as all hell, but mathematically, it's working for Mercedes right now. The more alarming thing is that he's 110 points behind Hamilton after 14 races. But what do I know? Yeah, but look, man, guys in the chat, Bottas is Bottas. He is who he is. The troughs are now starting to outweigh the dips, and that is an issue. It's not even like he's just a clear number 2 for Mercedes. It's you're opening the door to Max Verstappen, and that's a problem sort of performance. And that could be an issue going forward in the long run. And that's just it. He's good, but he's not amazing. He's not going to win anybody a championship. He's just there to collect 250 to 300 points and just play second fiddle. It's a shame. Look, let's put it to you this way. If Hamilton has a bad day right now in Formula 1, he's still finishing 3rd or 4th. If Valtteri's having a bad day, he's not even going to be on the podium. He's either going to be out, or he's going to have a DNF, or he's going to have a big mistake, and he's going to cost himself points. It ain't ideal. And I think that's just who Valtteri is at this point. And honestly, the amount of shit that he talks, like, the problem with Valtteri is that every year he comes out and says, I've tweaked this little part of my game, and I've done this, and I've done that, and I think beating Hamilton will be a cinch if I just do this, and then by the time we get to the summer break every season afterwards, it's like Bottas is like 70 points off. And then we dunk on him because we take our frustration as, because we as neutral fans, okay, maybe not all of us are neutral, but certainly if you were a neutral, looking at the situation, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out that the only man that's got a feasible chance of winning the championship, not named Lewis, is Valtteri. Because there's no other combination of driver and car that can win this title right now. So, inevitably, when Bottas screws the pooch, which he will because he's not good enough to compete with Lewis, we take all our frustration out on him. So, it's rough. I feel bad for Valtteri because I actually generally quite like him as a bloke, and he's down to earth and no nonsense and likes to shag mountain bikers. But generally speaking, like, he is who he is, and a lot of that is not on him. A lot of that is because his teammate is probably the best F1 driver ever, and that doesn't help. Like, Lewis can have bad days and still win. That's how good he is. Like, Lewis, even if he's only been beaten 3 times all season this year, and I think the 3 times he didn't win a Grand Prix this year, he finished, 3rd, 4th, and 7th? Like, How do you beat that? And the simple answer is you don't. Like, and there you go. Finished 4th, 2nd, and 3rd respectively. Austria, Silverstone, Russia. That's just how good he is. And like Monza was the worst day he had all season, and that wasn't his fault. Not directly his fault, anyway. Maybe he should have seen the red, pit lane was closed, but his team told him to come in. So, And even then, despite what was the equivalent of maybe a 30-second time penalty, he still finished 7th. Do I need to point out how he's virtually unstoppable in this sport right now? There is no combination of car and driver that can get within 100 points of him. What do you do? It's like, and I've said this numerous times, we were so lucky to have Nico Rosberg when we did, because Rosberg was actually good enough to challenge him. And instead, we all thought, oh, he's shit because he's not Lewis. Man took him to 2 deciders and won one of them. We didn't know how good we had it. We did not know how good we had it until he was gone. In shocking news, the man that won 22 Grand Prix might be good. What a shocker. Let me just close my door, so. There we go. Like I said, 22 Grand Prix Nico Rosberg won in his career. And what? I think 19 of them came in the hybrid era? Man was great! We'd all just thought, oh, Hamilton's back on top, so we're all just going to make it... We're all just going to focus the coverage in on the lowest common denominator, just assuming that everyone's British. And we just go, it's like, yay, Hamilton's good again, because he's not actually had a car that can win the title in 5 years. So the moment we were like, oh my god, Nico Rosberg's actually good. Nah, must be a fluke, it's all the car. Yeah, that's just it, Vic. He won 9 Grand Prix the year he won the championship. 9! He went from, I think, 5 wins to 6 wins to 9. 9! That's the sort of win count you need to win the title. You got to get 8 or 9 wins in and hope the other guy screws up. And Hamilton had a couple of screw-ups that year. It helped. It's just how it is. Hi, Libby. Good to see you. Didn't see you in there. No, I've said it before. Hi, Matt. Nice to see you. I've said it before, man. Look. Nico Rosberg chose the perfect time to quit. It was the best decision he ever made because now no one can question his legacy. Won a world championship, beat probably the best driver ever to do it. The only man that has beaten Hamilton and Schumacher in this era. Like, what can you say? He beat Hamilton head to head, fair and square. That is, look, that stock is only gonna go up as Hamilton wins more world titles. It's like buying stock in TikTok 2 years ago. It's genius. Because that stock price is only going to keep going up as Hamilton looks better and better and better in F1's pantheon of greatness. It's like, yeah, Hamilton's like a 15-time world title. But look at the man who beat him. It was Nico Rosberg. And then you can go on YouTube and wind him up about it. And then Lewis will take it to heart because Lewis is a sensitive being. It's genius. It was genius that Rosberg knew exactly what he was doing when he retired in 2016. Don't let the family argument fool you. The man had bread everywhere. The man's an entrepreneur. The man's got money out of the wazoo. He could have invested it wherever he wanted. Man did not need to be in F1 no more, okay? My man had a plan. And his plan was, I'm just going to do whatever the hell I feel like doing. And I don't need to be on the road 8 months a year. Said it before. Rosberg is a genius. Genius. Clever boy. You know, don't feel bad for him, man. He got his. He could say Nico Rosberg was 2016 world champion and he beat Lewis Hamilton and he sacrificed everything from a mental standpoint to do it. Isn't that kind of what we like about Formula One? Sacrifice? You know, gluttony, punishment, all of that good stuff. All of those intangibles we love when making sports montages or writing articles. We love that shit. And Rosberg was all of that shit. It was great. So Rosberg was a modern-day James Hunt. Yeah, to a degree, Kelly. Like, only without the fornicating and the cigarettes. You know. It is what it is, man. As Daniel Brawl says, playing Niki Lauda at the end of Rush. For James, one was enough. That was all the validation the man needed. I think a lot of people forgot by the time that Rosberg retired that as Vic points out, his goal was never to win all these world titles. His goal was win one. Match your dad. That's good enough for him. You know. And I know it's corny, but as Cam points out, it was all down to will to win and wanting it more than the other guy did. So good for him. Good for him. Yeah, I'm a your boat, Libby. Definitely. Just checking the chat real quick. Derp, he got scared of losing, so he left. Yeah, we're not. This isn't X Matty G. This isn't the hot take power hour, which I know that floated around a lot when he did retire. Yeah, look, yeah, Kimi's got one out of circumstance. I guess to a degree, but Kimi Räikkönen got hot when it mattered. And Hamilton beached it in the pit lane. That's on him. You know. Yeah, and look, Kimi should have more than one, really, if we're going to go down that road. But yeah, definitely. Tat's asking, who has more potential, Max or Charles? I think Charles low-key. Good question. It's actually pretty close. I think it's interesting because I think Charles has the fact he's beaten Sebastian as the big feather in his cap. Because people were just starting to turn around on Vettel again when he was at Red Bull and was like, oh my god, it wasn't just the Red Bull. Vettel's like really good. And that's the big feather in Charles Leclerc's cap, is that he's got one over on Seb, who's now becoming one of the most universally liked dudes. I mean, look, let's put it to you this way. Sebastian Vettel's having a miserable season, and most fans are giving him the benefit of the doubt because they know Ferrari is trash. There is no way in hell that would have happened 5 years ago. No way in hell. 2014 was the walking example of that. It was when Daniel Ricciardo rolled up and beat Sebastian. Everyone was like, aha! There's our gotcha for Sebastian, because 2014 Ricciardo came along and smoked him. Let's put it to you this way. To answer your questions, I went on a bit of a tangent. I like Charles more. If I was a team boss, I would hire Charles Leclerc over Max Verstappen. And the reason why is because, and I think you guys have pointed out in the chat, Charles is a team player. Charles is a team player. He learns from his mistakes. He's very critical of himself. And he always strives to do better. I like Charles's attitude a lot more. And I think For raw talent, I think they're very evenly matched. I think they're both very close. I think Max has got a slightly higher ultimate upside, but I think Charles would give me a better chance to win a championship. I think Charles has got a better chance of learning from his mistakes. I think he's got a better chance of reflecting upon his own shortcomings. And I think that would ultimately do him better in the long run. I don't like dunking on Max Verstappen because his talent is huge. But I think Verstappen's issue is that he thinks his shit doesn't stink. And I think Max, in his head, thinks he's the greatest thing to happen to driving since sliced bread. And this is the way Max has been since he was a teenager. And it's crazy that we're talking about a guy with 120 Grand Prix starts, and it's still like year 5 for Max Verstappen in Formula 1. You know, Max has got that proven track record because he's been in a top team for 4 years now, but I have a feeling that Max would be hard to work with. I think he'd be worse for a team dynamic, and I have a feeling that over the course of a championship season, I would have more confidence that Charles Leclerc would get his shit in line. Personally, like all these people that are saying that Verstappen, like again, not saying you guys in the chat, but in general, everyone was bragging that Max was the modern day Rainmeister. We just had Turkey, a wet race, and he was sloppy. He had multiple spins and cost himself a shot at the win, at least a shot at the win. He probably should have won that race yesterday. But Max, the self-proclaimed Rainmeister, the guys that everyone on Twitter seems to think is, his shit is the best. Like, he put his team in hot water in Hungary when he spun it on an installation lap. And in Turkey, he was subpar by his standards. Like, if Max turns it down one notch, and I used this with Fabio before, he dials it down one notch, he could be the best driver in the world. Like, that's my general assumption. It's why, like, his attitude and his driving style is not quite there yet. He's nearly there. He's close. But so is Charles. And I think if I had to choose, I'm taking Charles over Max. I will sacrifice that 5% of upside knowing that I think Charles will naturally get better as he goes on as a driver. I think I like his attitude and approach to racing more, if that makes sense. I hope that was a decent answer. I hope you guys saw where I was coming from there. And look, I didn't like how he approached the kneeling situation, but Charles is a good kid deep down. Like, I want to root for Charles. He seems like a good kid at his core. Can't say the same about Max, unfortunately, but no, it is what it is. This guy's opposition to Max is largely political. No, is the straight answer to that orthodox Belarusian opinions. It's not politics why I don't like Max. I think his ego is a genuine negative in his game, and that's it. He's got all the talent in the world. Like I was genuinely sitting here thinking to myself a few months ago, he might be the best driver in the world pound for pound right now, even over Hamilton. And he's been unlucky this year to a degree. He should be second in the championship, but he's not there yet. It ain't politics. I don't let how my personal opinions on drivers affect how good or bad I don't think they are. And I'm not going to get into a debate as to why Charles did or didn't kneel, because honestly, it's a waste of time. If Charles reads whatever he wants to read on the internet and he's come to that conclusion, then fair play to him. Like, I don't think anybody that took the knee in the world of sports earlier in the year did so as an endorsement of violence. Because if we did, we'd hear a lot more people talking about it. And he seemed to be one of the very few people who did. Let's have a look here. Do you think the cost cap will actually work? We've got to wait and see. Too early to say. I mean, I'd like to see how it goes when it's fully implemented first. I like the concessions with aero time in wind tunnel time. I like the direction that they're going in with that. We'll have to wait and see if teams can spend up to that upper limit and see how it plays out first. We won't know how effective it will be for a couple of years yet. Hopefully that in combination with if cars that can race each other, it could be a good mix. We'll have to wait and see. Do you think his attitude is negatively affecting him, and moreover, is this his dad's fault? Look, might be. Again, I'm not a psychologist when it comes to Max. I'm not paid or trained in what makes a guy tick. I can only guess, so I can't say for sure. It might be, is what I would say. And I think it's too easy to blame his dad. He's a grown man of 23. And even if his dad is pretty objectively a shithead at this point, like, I am not going to... Like, Max is old enough to know the difference between right and wrong. And it isn't an excuse to channel his own dad's behaviour. I.e. mentally, not physically, obviously, because when it comes to Jos Verstappen, yeah, if you know, you know, basically. But he is also enough of a grown adult to know how he should probably handle himself. Brackets, I do also note that he's probably had people blow smoke up his arse for the better part of a decade saying that he's this amazing talent, because let's not forget, he cracked Formula 1 at 16. Like, we had never seen that before. Also, Casey, we do not use that word in the chat, by the way. Just throwing that out there. That is not okay, and if I see that word again, I will put you in timeout. If I see it a third time, it'll be a ban. I'm going to make that once, and I'm going to make that absolutely clear that the R word is not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. Thank you. In other words, the reality is it's somewhere in the middle. In other words, is what I would say in brief. It's Max is 23. Like, I openly admit, most people are some form of arsehole between 17 and 23, but the point is we learn from it. We learn from our mistakes. We mature as people. We get better as people. I can see that with other people, but I can't see that yet with Max. Let's put it to you that way. And as Adam and Cam have pointed out in the chat, this is his 4th season with a big team. Not a lot of like, if you're good, 4 years in a big team gives us a pretty good idea of how good or bad a driver you are, you know. So make of that what you will, basically, is what I would say. And look, AJ mentioned Norris, and look, Norris, even he slipped up on this. That he did not handle Turkey very well. Let's put it to you that way. And look, you guys are right. The other younger people around him have not made anywhere near the same level of PR foul-ups that Verstappen has had. So there really isn't an excuse. Like, and look, I'm not ragging on these dudes for it, because I've said it many a time on the internet. No one bats 1,000 in the game of life. We've all screwed up. We've all made mistakes. We've all said and done dumb things objectively in our lives. It's how we learn and deal with them that makes us the people that we are. And Lando, when he realised what he said was wrong and what he did was wrong and how he saw how his comments can be perceived, he immediately apologised. It doesn't help he did it on the internet, because the internet, half the people were telling them on the internet, oh, you don't need to apologise, it's fine. You know, yeah. It didn't help that a bunch of the black community immediately wanted to call him racist for it, but, you know, it's a hot mess. We need to have more nuanced discussions about this on the internet. Unfortunately, Twitter is not the place for that. It really is not the place for nuanced discussions limited behind 280 characters and being able to hide your own name. You know, can't put it perfectly. The internet never forgets, for better or for worse. You're absolutely right. Quote saying, do you think that Formula 1 should drop the We Racers 1 hashtag at this point? I know that you think the whole thing they've done is pathetically shallow, but would you rather they just didn't do it now? No. My general thoughts on the whole thing, I wrote a fair bit about it yesterday on the website. You can check that out as well, motorsport101.com/blog. Sorry, this is for the shameless plug. But the funny thing is that when they announced it, I actually liked the plan. They were targeting areas of society that needed the help. I read the original manifesto they put out on social media when the plan was announced, and I was like, okay, this is good. Like, they're going for the media, so the people that, you know, get the sport out there to the greater world. They were targeting the ladder. They were targeting schools, you know, and whatnot, trying to get people into STEM careers and whatnot. I liked the direction of what they were doing. What they said, all the right things in their manifesto when it came out. And it's not entirely, it's not entirely Formula One's fault. I say that because the FIA and FOM are not on the same page. We saw Jean Todt make his stupid comments about how, quote, all lives matter, and, you know, oh, my wife is yellow, you know, that didn't help anybody, you know. McLaren used the same hashtag to sell face masks and then say, oh, we're helping out for COVID-19, or we're helping out Mind, the mental health charity, which is great, but that's not what the plan was initially for. Like, instead, you'll slap the phrase on a face mask, charge 30 quid for it, and give it to a charity that's got nothing to do with what the original manifesto was, and that was increasing diversity within the sport. That's the problem I have with Re-Racers 1. It's now kind of become adopted, and the internet has kind of molded it into its own separate entity, where it's now more about F1 must be as ethically perfect as possible, and that's never gonna flaming happen. That horse bolted decades ago. Like, if you want to draw the line at racing in Saudi Arabia, that's fine. We already race in China. We already race in Bahrain. We already race in Azerbaijan. And these same political dramas didn't come up when they were added onto the calendar. They just weren't. Not a single peep was mentioned about Baku being a dictatorship in Azerbaijan, or how they got their oil money. So if you want to draw the line, you know, that's up to you. But the We Racers 1 hashtag has just kind of, you know, it's kind of become its own separate entity that people are going to take and twist and mold into what they want it to be. It was originally meant to improve and to be fair, the sport itself has kind of done that, because They, in essence, took the team's colours, made it a rainbow, and even though that's a symbol for pride, and don't get me wrong, they're not the only guys guilty of this, because the NHS has done this too. The rainbow's become the NHS collective symbol now as well in the middle of the COVID pandemic, when, again, that was originally a pride logo. So it's all one great big flaming hot mess. And look, I'm not saying that they can't use this hashtag now. I would rather a big multi-billion-pound corporation act now rather than later. Because, you know, it's better to acknowledge that we're part of the problem than to ignore it altogether. But if you're going to float this hashtag around, at least practice what you preach, is what I would say. My biggest issues with Re-Racers 1 is the fact that they've asked fans to pay money for posters and merchandise. Chase Carey put $1 million of his own money into the plan, but we have no hard plan as to where the money is going. It's been the better part of 6 months. Where's the money going? What plans are you going to open up? What schemes are you going to open up? There's no substance here beyond a fancy hashtag and a rainbow and a t-shirt before the race starts. They need to do better on that front. And that's the issue I have with Re-Racers 1. Like most terms on the internet, it will become its own separate entity because people will twist it into whatever they want it to be. But I would like to see a hard plan, and I would like to see where the money is going. That's what I ask for more than anything else. It's embarrassing enough that we were the only sport that didn't get everybody on the same page for this. Like, cricket. Cricket is one of the whitest sports in the world, and the West Indies and England were on the same page. Come on! It's like... oh, it's frustrating. I don't even like talking about it because I sound like a broken record. I had to say similar when I was on the Driven by Diversity podcast. I've said it on our own podcast. I've said it on Twitter numerous times. It's a hot mess. It's a hot mess, and it's not going to get fixed anytime soon. Like, it's actually alarming that the entity that has done the most to actually practice what they preach has been Mercedes. Mercedes painted their car black. They revealed their own diversity numbers. They promised and pledged to have a diversity program in the future. Last week, they opened up a partnership with the Mulberry group of schools so they can actually have a partnership to develop their own STEM academy. Mercs are the only team that seems to actually give a shit beyond the image of having a rainbow on the side pod. And I will forever salute Mercedes because they were the only ones that were honest enough to go, yeah, we're part of the problem here. You know. So, say what you will about Mercs. They're good dudes. Like, they actually seem to give a shit. And... yeah, you know, they've actually done some graft behind the scenes and used their time and money and resources to actually try and make a difference. Alongside, obviously, what Lewis Hamilton has done with his platform and, of course, the commission that he's put up and set up and put together. You know, like, and I'm glad that Mercedes as a team has worked together with them on that. So yeah, you know, no one else seems to have bothered, which is unfortunate. Again, like I said, McLaren seems more bothered about supporting mental health, which is, don't get me wrong, a valuable entity in its own right, but using that hashtag to help promote that is a little bit disingenuous as far as I'm concerned. But hey, can't speak ill of McLaren on here because they got too many new fans. Sorry if I've missed your comments in the chat. I am trying to keep half an eye on them. I do have a knack of rambling. I'm sorry for that. I promise I will try and get through you guys as much as I can. Appreciate the thoughts on the races. One thing I do wish that people organically on the social justice train would stop believing that big corporations actually care. Look, I can't blame people for having hope. At the end of the day, I want to be an optimist myself, but don't expect the multi-billion-pound sport to actually give a shit about people on the ground floor. You know, the sooner you get that assumption out of the way, the better you can probably look at it without the rose-tinted spectacles. It's like that scene from The Simpsons where it's like Lionel Hutz imagines a world without lawyers and it's everybody just holding hands going kumbaya in a circle. It's one of the most hilarious scenes in the history of The Simpsons where he just goes, could you imagine a world without lawyers? It's that sort of scene, and that's hilarious. We know you ramble, Dre. We would have had 3-hour podcasts on dead rubber races in the past. You're not wrong, Sid. You're not wrong. No, you're right, Libby. A lot of teams did hop on the COVID response, and I'm glad they did, and that's great, and I'm not disputing any of them for that. The difference I have is that it's easy to do that with COVID. A global pandemic is hopefully once in a lifetime experience, and it doesn't piss anybody off to say we're putting shit towards a COVID pandemic. When we're talking about black people's lives or talking about the politics behind black people's lives, that's when people dip in and out. That's when people can choose not to care. That's one where they think they can, choose whether they care or not. Let's put it to you like I'll put it to you this way. No sport wants to be responsible for potentially if you want to get to the point of activism in this sport, you're gonna have to make some white people uncomfortable. It's like that's I've mentioned this numerous times. Like COVID doesn't do that. COVID, all you're doing is potentially upsetting some key workers, and that's never going to be on the same level, quote unquote, politically, compared to caring about black people's lives. Big difference there. Look, let's put it to you this way: 7 drivers had no problem kneeling for the Black Lives Matter movement at Silverstone. Everybody had no issue whatsoever with giving a 2-minute round of applause to the NHS and all the key workers. See? That's the issue that I've got. Because you're not comfortable with that quote-unquote token gesture, but you're okay with clapping for the key workers, though. Even though they were the ones that are out there on the street in London protesting to get more pay that they couldn't get against Boris Johnson. That's what I've got a problem with. I don't like getting all political on this, but when you're talking about Formula One, you can't not be political, unfortunately. It's annoying, but, it is what it is. Yeah, I did actually see Lewis Hamilton's makeup on Spitting Image. Spitting Image, the reboot has been awful. It's just not funny. Honestly, it's not that I've got an issue with anyone politically speaking on that show. It's just not funny. And that's the biggest problem I have with it. And look, they will take their jabs at Hamilton because they ain't got shit on Hamilton. All they've got on Hamilton from a PR standpoint is hypocrisy. Even though he's gone out of his way to make an effort to undo some of the lavishes of his lifestyle. I.e., selling his private jet, going vegan, paying his taxes. He's done the work to try and undo some of that. So of course they're going to bring up shit from 2017. It is what it is, man. It is what it is. And yeah, you're right, Dom. If we really wanted to draw the line at Saudi Arabia from a political standpoint, we wouldn't be racing on half the current calendar. It's as simple as that. We race here. We race in the United States. Like, it is what it is. You know? Let's have a look. Just looking at some comments here. I'm surprised I didn't actually drive anybody away on here. Like, I've still got 23 viewers. I thought, like, I've got 32 viewers now. Shit. Okay. I honestly thought I would have driven out half the room with that, but hey, what do I know? Yeah, I can't disagree with any of that. I do hope Mercedes are being sincere. I did hear about that, Mahiri. I did actually hear that Lance Stroll, like, he said the other day that he blocks all the big meme accounts on Instagram. And a lot of people have come out with stories regarding Lance that he's had, you know, crying fits in the past in his F1 career. You know, I don't think Lance helps himself sometimes. You know, it's rough because, like I said, I don't think Lance is completely innocent for all of this. I think sometimes he's a bit flaky on his attitude, but I think he's a good kid deep down. And he might have. He looks like he's been through COVID. Before Turkey, he'd gone on a run of 5 races without scoring. That would do a number on anybody, like, honestly. And I think a little bit of empathy towards F1 drivers in those sorts of scenarios at time, like, really wouldn't hurt. Like Lawrence Barretto, who was the man who interviewed him after Imola, and he walked off like 20 seconds into an interview. Like, Lawrence was like, he was just ticked off, and I completely understand what he was talking about. Like, I'm glad that Lawrence came out and said, look, it's not a big deal. Because, like, honestly, I get it. Like, 100% get why you'd walk off that interview early, because, dude, do you want to be... Like, when you've had a race ruined from start to finish, do you think I'd be in any sort of mood to talk to the media about how bad my race was? Like, I wouldn't. I'd be pissed off too. Like, honestly, I get it. I really do get it. And yeah, that Imola race was, again, a week after he had COVID. I mean, shit. And yeah, look, it's... A part of me will always feel bad because, like I said, his dad's a billionaire. His dad has thrown resources at him to get him into Formula One, and I'm guilty of mentioning that myself in the past. It's not a fair fight when it comes to Lance Stroll because everybody is a pay driver. Like, no one is walking into this sport without a shit ton of money to back your team and have sponsors. You know. It's the whole, like, I would love more than anything else in the discourse of Formula One to, you know, just eradicate the term pay driver, because just honestly, like, we only use that term for people we don't think are good enough to be in Formula One. Like, I'll give you a prime example. I remember when Rio Haryanto got into Formula One, and Haryanto wasn't terrible in Formula 2 by any stretch of the imagination. He was fine. He'd won sprint races before. There was far more egregious picks for Formula One than Haryanto. Like, you know. But we gave him the pay driver label. But if someone's really good, we don't call him the pay driver. Like, at that level, you need £2 million a year to race in Formula 2. 2 million. This is like one of the few sports in the world where it's like you need to pay 7 digits just to take part. And even when they do, we judge them if we don't think they're good enough, saying that it's purely about the money. It's inherently not a fair fight. I would love to just eradicate the term pay driver altogether, because it's horse shit. Most like in modern day form, not everyone like Mitch Evans was the exception to the rule. Like, honestly, everybody else is a pay driver of some degree. Like, so I don't know why we insist on beating this drum with Lance. It's just it's stupid. But that's the thing, Scarback. Like, talking about Perez, that goes off to Perez as a pay driver. Look, Perez never got that shit because Perez was good out of the box. That's the whole point. Perez's breakout season was in 2012, when the second race of that season he should have won. And that was Malaysia that year, where he nearly beat Alonso to a win. Should have beaten Alonso to a win. No one called him a pay driver then. We were too busy thinking, shit, give him Felipe Massa's seat at Ferrari. You know. And yeah, you're ironically spot on, Adam. The closest we've had to a working class hero is Lewis, and don't get it twisted. I know off the record from a lot of people that are involved in lower class motorsport, there are a lot of people that were waving checks for Lewis. Trust me on this. Lewis was a fantastic talent. He also had a McLaren flip him a lot of bills. We just don't mention that bit because Lewis is great. We like to focus on the negative part of the story because it makes Hamilton look that much greater. It's a part of the problem when it comes to looking at the sport from a neutral standpoint, because it's hard to get into Formula One no matter what your background is. People think privilege doesn't exist. And it does. But, you know, it's not quite as simple as that. Like I say this in general, when Formula One is discussed on the internet, like, we can only seemingly deal with extremes. Like, it's either one extreme or the other. It's like, we put Mitch on a plinth because he wasn't this super funded pay driver back when he was trying to crack Formula One a few years ago. Or we just go, you know, all the way the other end and just go, oh, he's a pay driver. Look at how much money he's getting in. Whereas the reality is, most of the time, it falls somewhere in the middle. But I said it before, on the internet, we don't have nuanced discussion about this sport. It's why I wish I could... it makes me want to talk less on social media, because people get so defensive about their favourite drivers, and, like, we can only deal in extremes. Like, oh, we're cancelling this dude. Or, oh, shut the fuck up, you know, Lando Norris is the best thing to happen to the world since sliced bread. We deal in extremes, and that's part of the problem. Most things in life are various shades of grey that should be up to more discussion. Discussion is what solves problems, not just trying to label everybody and paint them with the same brush. But I feel bad for Lance in that sense. We're not capable of doing that, and Cam's spot on, and that's the problem. No, you're absolutely right, Libby. I wish it was easier for the girls. And I think the questions we probably need to be asking ourselves is, why are there not more girls that are interested in karting? Or why are they not more interested in STEM careers? Because I know the balance is so shifted outwards in that sense. You know. And you're right, a lot of the lads do end up finding the cash. A lot of the women don't, and they need to probably be looking at the ground floor as to why that is. And again, part of the reason why I'm so fascinated about what the Hamilton Commission ends up producing in terms of results, because there's going to be people on the ground floor asking questions, and I hope it produces a great report as to what's going on and how we can address that within motorsport, because this sport is 95% white males. It is how it is. That's how it's always been. And, you know, it is what it is in that sense. Yeah, you guys are putting out great examples. Mario Andretti funded his early career via his wife. You know, that's a can of worms in its own right. You know, Sid, when the day we do get a working class F1 driver, will be the best thing for the sport. It's not going to happen, Sid. You need hundreds of thousands of pounds of sponsorship to get up the ladder. That's beyond working class money. Working class money will not fund your motorsport career. It's as simple as that. It doesn't exist. People need money to make it worth their while. Parker saying thoughts on teams going out and signing drivers under 16 probably isn't right, but teams will do it because they want assets. It's as simple as that. I hate to be that guy, but that's just how it is. It's the cold hard numbers of the world. Saying, do you think that Hamilton's ethnic background conversely could have helped him in any way in his junior career in dealing with these big corporations in PR terms, for example? I bring this up because Albon mentioned something about trying to play to his benefit. I guess maybe a big corporation might think, hey, if we can hire this one black dude, it'll make us look great and we can funnel him some money. So I guess from a PR standpoint, yeah, I guess that could certainly help if you want to be cynically minded. Like, I'm not saying that you are personally, but I could see the argument for that. I don't think that applied in Hamilton's case. He was too busy getting racially abused on the track, apparently. So, you know, micro and macro, I suppose. I was the only girl in the design office when I started 12 years ago. There's 7 of us now. It's getting better in STEM. Good to hear, Libby. That's great to hear. Yeah, Bilal, you're absolutely right. It is. From what I know from people that have spoken to me about it, I've spoken to a lot of people in the last few months regarding diversity management. It's getting better, but it is still heavily favoured in terms of race and gender, unfortunately. There is no reason why women can't race in upper class motorsport and higher class motorsport. It's not. I don't think it's a physical element to it. I think it's a funding, reputation, and accessibility problem more than anything else. Higgins for the STEM. It stands for science, technology, engineering, and maths. So careers in that area, those sorts of areas of science, engineering, technology, maths. So, you know, physics, chemistry, science, etc., etc., etc. And yeah, those sorts of areas, not just for racing, but also the people behind the visor, you know, people behind the cars, the technology departments, and whatnot. You know, yeah, like race engineers, data analysts, all those sorts of jobs behind the counter. And honestly, I know people are going to use examples like Tatiana Calderon and Sophia Floresh and Jamie Chadwick, the current crop we've got right now. This isn't going to be about those sorts of girls because they've done what they've done in spite of the funding that they're going against them. I think it's going to take 5-10 years of constant support and backing to maybe see some prolific change on the grassroots and on the ground floor. At least that's how I look at it anyway. Like, you need consistent backing to see real change at that level. It's not just going to be flooding the market exactly, but I think you need time, effort, resources at the bottom, you know, for that to see change at the top. It's why a lot of people didn't like the W Series at first, because they just thought, oh, just make all the women race each other. But it has actually gotten girls jobs in other series, and women jobs in other series. I shouldn't use the term girls. Women get roles in other series. It's done great things from a publicity standpoint, and it's hopefully only going to get better now they're on the Formula One undercard. It was actually really genuinely refreshing to see all the other male drivers in Formula One say, no, this is great, this is awesome, they need more exposure. So, you know, but yeah, people asking me about the Mazepin rumors and Haas. I have it on good authority it's going to be Mazepin and Schumacher. They said, like, Ferrari have said before Bahrain they would reveal what happens to their driver academy. We'll have to wait and see for sure, but I have it on good word it's going to be Mazepin and Schumacher. Make of that what you will, basically. I think Schumacher's a great talent, and I think that Mazepin, you could do far worse than have Mazepin in that second seat. He's good. He's not the top tier, super popular options of Schwartzman or Ilott that I know the internet. I know the internet absolutely loves Callum Ilott, and I understand why. But you could do a lot worse than Mazepin. I know he's not likable because of what he's done off the track and whatnot, and a little bit of on the track as well. I know he rubs people the wrong way, but you could do a lot worse in that second seat than Mazepin, and if you need money, then hey, that's even better, right? I'm not going to sit here and pretend like Formula One is some sort of meritocracy when it's not. Yeah, so. Yeah, Parker, I've actually got a couple of sources now. It's actually kind of strange how this shit turns out. But, yeah, you know. Is Sauber passing on Schumacher for Theo Pourchaire? No. Scar Black? No. Pourchaire will be in Formula 2 next year. He might jump the queue in 2022. We'll have to wait and see. But, you know, we'll have to wait and see. But, look, let's not rush Pourchaire. He's only 17, for Christ's sake. That's the last thing we want to do. You know. Oh, look, I'm not denying it. Mazepin is a douchebag, but in terms of sheer ability, he's fine. He's probably acceptable for a guy. He's like talent-wise, he's probably like he's never going to be first in line, but he's fine. I'm not going to jump up and down and, you know, say, oh, this is egregious, this is a terrible shame. No, he's fine. It's just, you know, he's not very likable, but yeah. I wouldn't go that far. Like Ilott is pretty good. Like Ilott is like number 2 or 3 in the queue for Formula One. Like, that's great. Like Ilott is very fast. He's very talented. I think it's more from a social standpoint is why people like him so much, because he interacts with fans. He cracks jokes at his own expense. You know, he's active on Instagram and Twitter. You know, he interacts with people like that. I think that's why people like Ilott so much, because he's relatable to a lot of fans on the internet. You know, so you know, I wouldn't say he's quote unquote overhyped. I think he's just popular and well liked. And when you're well liked, people are more likely to give you the benefit of the doubt. And yeah, I agree for what it's worth that Christian Lundgaard is a massive talent. He should be favourite for Formula 2 next year, as far as I'm concerned. Certainly in the conversation. Hello, Ryan. Good to see you. My old mucker. Hope you're doing all right, buddy. And congratulations on the marriage, my friend. Do say hi to Lauren for me. Big congratulations, buddy. It's genuinely wonderful to see an old mate of mine take the big steps in life. I'm very proud of you. So yeah, big congrats, buddy. Delighted to see that. I was the first guy whooping and hollering when I saw the pictures on Twitter. So congrats, buddy. A fellow Nottingham man, after all, which where a lot of my family's from. So that was great. Rahul saying, "Well, I'll stay in F2." Probably not. He said it himself, Rahul. He said that he can't afford to be in Formula 2 another year. So, like he said it himself, he hasn't got the money to compete in Formula 2 for another season. So if he doesn't get an F1 seat next year, he's probably going to have to look elsewhere. He might end up in somewhere like Super Formula and whatnot. So, Ilott more or less has already gone on the record and said he probably won't be there next year unless someone magically comes up as a sponsor. So yeah, that's probably the best way to go. Parker asking me thoughts on Lando's new Team Quadrant content team. Is this an idea to you see other drivers following? I don't know if other drivers will follow it, Parker, but honestly, and I know people were going to hope I'm going to dunk on them here, I'm delighted for Team Quadrant because two of the dudes on that team are muckers of mine that I go way back with. Like Niren at the FNG is an old friend of mine from years ago. Back when he was making F1 content, we've had many a conversation. He's someone I consider a mate. He's one of those dudes who I know has got a massive following, but if I needed him for something, I could probably DM him and he would answer my DM. That's how I'm on that sort of level with Niren, and his channel is fucking hilarious. His football content and football this week. If you haven't watched it, it's hilarious. Like he is genuinely a brilliant, talented dude. Great editor, great talker, genuinely funny man. And very intelligent as well. I'm delighted for him. He's gotten that opportunity. Super GT is a great YouTuber, always has been. Always thought his deadpan humor was funny. Great sim racer. He's a good fit for, I think, what they're trying to do. And look, again, I've mentioned it before, me and Arav go way back. Like, I've been mates with Arav for like 7 years. We grew up in the same town. Like, I still live in Southall. I think he's got his own flat over near a Hounslow sort of side where I am in West London. But Arav's been in my house. Like honestly, he's like, that poster you could see up there. I'm actually putting the camera up here. That one next to my Ultimate Team sign, that was his uni project. It's still on my wall. And seeing Arav become the YouTuber he's become, I couldn't be happier for him. So it is fantastic that they now get to work directly with someone like Lando, who is the most dialed in social media following Formula One driver we've ever had. He's on the ball. I clearly think he saw what the Sidemen were doing and wanted a part of that life. And he's making it work for him. And look, there is too much talent on that team for it to fail. Lando will get followers. Niren and Arav and Steve I don't know who the female, I can't remember her name, the other streamer they've got. I don't know her, to be honest with you, but the other three guys I know very well, they're brilliant. They're going to kill it. I have no doubt in my mind about that. They are fantastic. They will kill it. But yeah, Like, couldn't be happy for him. Thanks, Libby. Hope you enjoyed the chat. Thanks if you're still here. But yeah, thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate that. Ticktum's. I find it strange, Belarusian opinions, that like you think that Ilot is overrated, but then think Ticktum gets way too much shit. Very strange take, if I'm being honest with you. Question: will either Broad or Anderson hit the magic 700? Cricket-wise, Dom, I don't think so. And the reason why I say I don't think so is I don't know how much Test cricket we're going to be playing in the next year and a half. Like, due to COVID, due to the bio bubble situation, due to seeing probably more players called up, more rotations, more players being used. I don't think people are going to be playing every test. Of course, there's an Ashes series next winter that will help, certainly. But Jimmy's already 38. I don't know how many more... are they going to take Anderson for every test? Probably not. Not at his age. Broad, maybe, because he's a bit younger. But is Anderson going to play enough cricket to get another 100 wickets? Probably not. Broad might do. Because I think Broad's still only, 34? Broad might do. But with the bio bubble situation, we don't... right now, as an Englander, I don't know when England's going to play the next game of Test cricket. So... we don't know when they're going to play their next tour. They've got white ball stuff coming up in South Africa in a couple of weeks' time. But the test team, we don't know when the test team's playing again. There's rumours they might go to Sri Lanka in January. But we don't know when they're going to be playing again. So we'll have to wait and see. But I have my doubts. Broad might get to 700. I think Broad's upward tick is better, but it depends if Broad wants to play that long. Because, like I said, Anderson is not going to play every. He's not going to play every tour. He's not going to play every test at 38. Is he even going to get used in the Ashes? Is he going to make another year? I don't know. We don't know. Anderson, he could snap an ankle tomorrow for all we know. When you're talking about it, this is and this is a compliment to Anderson. He's in uncharted waters right now because we've never seen a fast bowler play this well at 38. It's never happened. This is of all the other big ones like Courtney Walsh and Glenn McGrath, they weren't doing this at 38. This is already, unprecedented, what we're seeing here from Jimmy Anderson. So, we're all just guessing at this point. But my gut tells me I don't think he's going to be playing enough cricket to get another 100 wickets. I think Broad might do, because, Broad is 34. Broad might have another 4 or 5 years if he stays healthy, So, we'll have to wait and see. Did Brett Lee really go on until he was 40? Or 38? Vic? I can't remember, to be fair. But, no, to answer the questions about Ticktum in the chat, Ticktum is not... Look, people don't like Ticktum because of his attitude, which is completely understandable because he's said and done some really dumb things in a race car. I don't think he's a quote-unquote bad person. I just think he's a bit stupid, like a lot of young people is. He's a talented driver. The talent has never been the question with Ticktum. I'll make that real quick. The talent has never been the concern. It's always been about his attitude and the way he went about himself as a driver. That's always been the biggest deal breaker with Ticktum. Ilott doesn't get that problem because Ilott is liked and he's likable. You know, the talent has never been a problem. Yeah, Rahul, you're absolutely right. The South Africa tour is still in doubt, certainly. Because I know the South Africa Cricket Board is in a right mess right now. Government intervention, and apparently if the government officially get involved, like, South Africa are basically out of the ICC, which is a mess. Yeah, so, you know, we'll have to wait and see. But, yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, Brett Lee went to 36. Huh. 38 if you want to include domestic cricket. Okay, fair enough. So it isn't completely uncharted, but like, honestly, like we're not talking like Brett Lee wasn't playing international cricket on the level that Jimmy is bowling as well as he's ever bowled right now for England, and he's 38 years old. Brett was out of the Australia team by 36. So, you know, it is what it is in that sense. But no, appreciate the insight there, chat. Very much appreciated. Yeah, I did see the podcast that Ticktum was on. I'll give Ticktum this. Like, he did carry himself well on that podcast. Certainly. Objectively, I think he did a good job on that show. But then he went out on a Twitch stream about 2 weeks later and endorsed Donald Trump. No matter which way you slice it, you're gonna split the room on that. Like, whether you want to or not, whether you like to or not, unfortunately, it's not a great look. And, you know, like I said, I don't think Ticktum's a bad person. I think he's just a bit stupid, and he's a bit young and dumb, and I think he'll learn better for it in the long run. Unfortunately, and this is what I always tell people, like, people can change. People can genuinely change their behavior. I'm a firm believer in second chances. But at the same time, you're not obligated for people to forgive you. That's on the individual. If they want to hold a grudge against said person, that's their right. That's their choice. And I think AJ sums it up better than I can, where he says, look, I think people want to see growth, and Ticktum didn't carry himself particularly well on track with some of the things he said on radio, some of the things he said while streaming. Like, and it's amazing because I genuinely say this. Ticktum, I think, had genuinely done a decent job of trying to turn around some of that bad reputation. You know, let's put it this way. When the Silverstone incident happened, where he talked about, I'm going to take this guy out, a lot of people on the internet wanted to defend him for it. Like, Ticktum has fans. Like, Ticktum has people that want the narrative of a redemption story with Ticktum. For better or worse. People absolutely want that. So, he's going to have people that are, like, people are going to split the room on that one, without a doubt. But that's on how people want to see it. Me personally, I'm kind of indifferent on Ticktum. I take the piss out of everybody on social media as equally as I can. I don't think the guy's a total arsehole. I just think he's a bit stupid, personally. And look, if people are going to hold the Formula 4 incident behind him for the rest of his life, completely understandable. Completely valid. Because what he did, some people could deem as manslaughter. I can't blame people for thinking in that way. People look at things differently, you know? Yeah, that's a fair comment. It's up to it's up. It's not down to me. It's up to other people. But like I said, and I think that's what AJ said. Like, it's up to us to decide whether someone is worthy of a second chance or not. That's on them. You can judge people however you want to judge. Like I said, the reality is probably some murky shade of grey, rather than it be black and white. If that, if you believe in I believe in second chances too, but I also believe that some incidents are you probably have to go with a zero tolerance approach to. So hey, it's up to the individual. That's on them. That's up to those guys. I will say this much though. It was alarming how many people wanted to see Ticktum just get a clean break after what happened at Silverstone. And from people that I thought was disappointing. Let's put it to you that way. People I genuinely respect in this community. And trust me, there isn't many. I'll tell you that for free. Yeah. It's still 23 of you guys in here. Wow, awesome. Yeah, see. Thanks again for all the comments regarding the test bowling situation. I didn't realise Wazzy Macron went till he was 37. Yeah. You mentioned some of the IPL guys in there as well, like Dhoni. Hi, Cammy. Good to see you. But yeah. Just double checking the chat, but yeah. Dale Steyn retired at 36. I thought Steyn was a couple of years younger than that, actually. Believe it or not. But yeah, Dale Steyn was a monster. Dear God, what a bowler he was. One of my favourites ever. But yeah, take care, Casey. Thanks for coming. Appreciate that. Yeah. Like, a lot of the comments in there are stuff I've already mentioned, but yeah, I'll probably go for another 10 to 15 minutes because I've already been on 2.25 hours. So we'll go to 8:30 UK time, roughly. So if you want to get any quick fire questions in, if I've missed anything, again, please forgive me if I've missed anything because it's actually genuinely been a very busy chat in here tonight. And like I said, I do ramble, unfortunately, but that's kind of the point, I suppose. But yeah, if you want to get any questions in for the next 10-15 minutes, I will answer whatever on anything. I do not mind. I'm a pretty open book. So yeah. Silverstone thing was overblown. It was badly worded in the heat of the moment. OBO. It didn't help. Windsor's commentary didn't help. I agree with you there. Ticktum doesn't deserve this much airtime. No, I could. But look, he is a fascinating person to look at in the context of motorsport. That's why he gets so much airtime. Like, it prompts deeper discussion, and that's a good thing. I'm all for that. What this is what I wish more F1 discourse was like on the internet. So, I find that sort of thing fascinating, personally. So that's why I like it when these topics come up, because it gives me room to talk about it and weigh up other people's opinions and, again, analyze and look at the various shades of grey on these sorts of things, and just weighing it up, because it's not. It's too easy just to go, oh, this guy's cancelled or this guy's a dick. That's easy. I don't like easy. I like dealing with things that are hard. It's more satisfying when you get it right, or when you at least tackle it anyway. Is someone keen on reading about F1? Are there any recommendations for getting them up to speed on the history of F1? Zoe, who's my moderator at McCarthy in the chat, ask Zoe. Zoe is a great historian on F1 history. I'm sure she'll help you out. She's a much bigger reader than I am. I wish I did read more. I've not taken that sort of time. I don't get the time as much as I should do because I work a really silly mainline job in the gambling industry, which many of the time drifts over into unsociable hours. So it's not ideal. But yes, I do still have your willpower book, Zoe. Okay, it's never mentioned. I will get around to reading it eventually. Anything past the last 20 years. I'll give you one book I recommend. I'll put it in the chat here as well, actually. I can't remember the name of the journalist that wrote it, but Formula One Fanatic is a great read. I think a Dutch journalist wrote it, and it's a great insight into some of the characters and drivers that were... It covers the 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s. It's a great read. Really, it's a fascinating look into some of the characters, the politics, some of the discourse we have now when it comes to F1 rumors, drivers' attitudes, and mentalities that we talk about a lot now because of social media and the greater access we have to the sport. That book covers a lot of that. But more for the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. It's a great book. I highly recommend it. My ex-girlfriend loaned it to me for a bit, and that one I actually did give back. Sorry, Zoe. It's my bad. I will eventually send her that book back. I promise. Shut up, chat. I'm joking. Let's have a look. Any audiobooks? Not for me. I'm not a big audiobook guy, Bilal. Forgive me on that one. Honest but tough question. Do you have any sympathy towards those drivers who don't want to take the knee? Or are their excuses just too poor in your opinion? Also, why do you think Raikkonen doesn't? That's a deep one. I don't have a lot of sympathy. And the reason why I don't have a lot of sympathy, as far as I'm concerned, is, and I've said this in videos before, if you can wear a t-shirt, there isn't a good reason why you can't take a knee. But you're never not going to wear a t-shirt because it sticks out like a sore thumb if you don't wear a t-shirt. And I know some people have mentioned cultural reasons, like the little caveat, like in Russia, we don't take the knee unless we're proposing to our wives or we're kneeling for the king. It would have made the gesture even more powerful than if he had done it. And it was the most basic of requirements for drivers to ask of the drivers, and I don't see any real valid reason why you couldn't do it. And honestly, the excuses that a lot of the drivers gave out for him were weak. Like, they were just weak in that sense. Like Verstappen saying racism is complicated and, I'll do this my own way, and then show no evidence of you doing it your own way, and we're just meant to sit there and go, well, I believe Max. That's great. Or Charles just saying, oh, I don't want to endorse the violence. Well, taking the knee wasn't, it wasn't an endorsement of the violence. And besides, people want to focus on the 0, like the 2 or 3% of the protests that were violent compared to the 95% that wasn't. It just looks like people were looking for a reason not to do it. As for Kimi Raikkonen, I just don't think Raikkonen cares. Personally, I just don't think Raikkonen gives a shit. Personally, and about anything besides his own family. I do find it very strange that Raikkonen seems to get this colossal pass for not talking about deeper issues or not having a lot of these big, deep interviews a lot of the time. And it's just, that's just Kimi being Kimi. And he gets a big old pass for that and nobody else does. Strange, but he gets away with it. It's whatever. Daniel Goddard, I don't think that if they do bring up Tsunoda, I don't think they'll swap him around or anything along those lines. Dom, I think, asked me a question a minute ago. Yeah, in terms of pure frustration, who was a bigger antagonist to England? Warren, McGrath, or Steve Smith? Oh, McGrath, easy. Like, the thing is, I've mentioned it before. I think it's with McGrath. It was the hills. It was the dips. It was the dips lords, and the fact that I think us Brits low key kind of liked Shane Warne. He was more charismatic. He was a bit more laid back. I think he played up a lot more to the English fans, and I think we kind of respected that about Warne. McGrath was just a bastard. I'm going to run in, I'm going to bowl 85 miles an hour, I'm going to put it on this spot, and I'm going to make you deal with it. Like, that's just... McGrath was a pain. I think with Steve Smith, it was more of a pantomime thing with Smith, because of, obviously, the ball tampering scandal. Like, we kind of like Warne. Like, I've said it before, we kind of like Warne. McGrath's a bastard. Like, in that sense. And, like I said, Steve Smith, it was more a panto thing. I don't think we actually dislike Steve Smith as much as David Warner. Bancroft, nobody really cared about in the ball tampering scandal. Warner, we all knew it was crocodile tears with him. Like, and he was the main antagonist. I think Smith gets a bit of a pass because he was like the captain that didn't know what was going on, allegedly. And we Brits, we love a performer. So it's like when Smith beat the crap out of us during the Ashes last year, we were like, he was so good with the bat, we just kind of stopped booing him because he was just that good. What was his Ashes average again? I think it was 114 or something stupid like that. He beat the piss out of us during the Ashes. Like, he was so good, we kind of had to respect him. Like, Jesus. So no, I think it's McGrath. I think we actually quite like Warne, and I think a lot of people have forgiven Smith because being good at something normally gets you a pass. You know. Shout out to Zoe for some great suggestions in the chat. If you're looking for F1 books, she's great for that. Yeah, 110 average for Smith in the Ashes. Says it all. That's Cricket 19 numbers. Man was a cheat code. Cheat code. Simple as that. And like I said, we Brits, we love a trier. Yeah, there you go. 110 average in the Ashes. I haven't actually got around to watching the test. I need to get around to doing that at some point. Apparently, it's quite good. It's a bit of an Australia. I've been told by a good mate of mine that that it's a bit of an Australia. You know, it's a bit of an Australia puff piece, but apparently it was quite good. I'm gonna have to get around to watching that because secretly, between you and me, there's a lot of the Aussies on that team I actually quite like as people. I like Pat Cummins. I think Marnus Labuschagne is a really nice dude for the most part. And if I'm completely honest, and I'm going to whisper this, I quite like David Warner's personality. Like he's really funny on social media, all right? It makes it hard for me to dislike David Warner. I've always said this. And like from all accounts, from what I've ever been told by people, apparently Steve Smith is just genuinely like a really, really nice guy. Like, I've never heard a bad word said about Smith outside of the ball tampering scandal. I haven't really got a bad thing to say about Smith as a person. He seems like a very nice guy, annoyingly. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. So yeah, I probably will watch it at some point. Yeah, Smith was a lovely bloke. Met him at the Oval, and he's lovely. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that too, Dom. I have it on good authority that Smith is just a genuinely nice guy, which doesn't help. That whispering thing, you didn't hear. You didn't hear it. Barnaby saying, should Andre Iannone now pursue a career as an Instagram model? You know what? He'd probably be quite good with it. Like, honestly, like, he's got model good looks. A man's had plastic surgery. I mean, like, I joked about it on Twitter when the sentence was announced. His loss is OnlyFans' gain. And I stand by that. He's a handsome motherfucker. It's sad that his career's probably now over because he's an immense talent. He was one of the most naturally talented riders I've seen in MotoGP for years and years and years. But ruined it for himself, unfortunately. And that's a shame because he's such a talent. And my favourite MotoGP race ever, Phillip Island 2015, he was one of the main protagonists. He was friggin' brilliant that day. Pulled off one of the best passes I've ever seen in the sport. Man can drive. Man can drive. Or ride, I should say, technically. But it's a shame he won't be around. And he's only really got himself to blame, unfortunately. And that's the saddest part of all. I hate seeing talented people waste their careers. Yeah, Sid, sorry I missed your question earlier, mate. Thoughts on the football season so far for United and England? In United's case, we need an identity. I've said it before. It's still early days for the Premier League, so I don't want to read too much into their struggles in the Prem. It would be nice if we actually won a game at home, but we have like 15 attacking midfielders for one position in the team. It doesn't really make sense. Defensively, I think we're still lacking, and I don't think it would hurt if we had one more striker. But I think we're a little bit better than I think the internet makes out, certainly. And yeah, I think it'll work out in the long run, but I think people have rapid and wild takes about Manchester United that go back and forth very quickly, which don't help, certainly. England is an interesting one. I don't like some of the silly stuff that Gareth Southgate has done. I don't think playing 3 or a 5-back system is going to work. I think he needs to go 4-3-3. And I genuinely think that he needs to build the team around Jack Grealish, personally. The Nations League situation, we lost to the good teams. We bottled it against Denmark earlier in the Nations League, and then we lost to Belgium when we needed it most. And Belgium are a better team than us. England are like joint favourites to win the tournament next year, and we probably shouldn't be. I think give it another year, and we'll see where England are at. But we'll have to wait and see. Early days yet. People are talking about Southgate's job, and I'll tell people for free. I think you need to wait until the Euros. I think anything less than a semi-final, sack Southgate by all means, and look elsewhere. But he's punched above his weight for the most part so far in his time with England. The honeymoon period, though, is kind of over. So we'll have to wait and see. This is the most talented England team we've had in 15 years. Easily. Kane, Sterling, Sancho, Grealish, you know, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Like, there is some genuine world-class players in the England team for the first time in a while. Like, this is genuinely a world-class England team. And it's under-delivered a little bit, certainly. But there's a lot of talent in there. They should be aiming for the final for the Euros next year, especially given we have a home final. So we'll have to wait and see. But, yeah. Would Pato Award be good enough for F1? Yes. I think IndyCar is the nearest fit we get to Formula One, and I think IndyCar has got immense levels of talent. Like, I think IndyCar's midfield would smoke Formula One's midfield. Genuinely. Like, there is... Like, we look at Formula One as the pinnacle, so we're never going to give IndyCar the benefit of the doubt when it comes to their talent evaluation. But honestly, Joseph Newgarden walks into Formula One and is a top-tier driver within a year. Same for Scott Dixon, same for Will Power, probably the same for Simon Pagenaud, Alex Rossi. Pato Award would be fine in Formula One. He's a great driver. Him and Pato Award were sensational in IndyCar this year. Like, Colton Herta is probably the best young driver in North America right now under the age of 20, under the age of 23. Like, if there was a pound-for-pound list of drivers under 25, Colton Herta would be in the top 3. Like, no, I know Rossi was briefly in F1. He drove for Manor. It didn't matter. Like, I think Herta and O'Ward are roughly on the same level. You're splitting hairs there between the two. Indy Lights wasn't that was a couple of years ago. Pato's clearly improved since then. Like, they both have, in all fairness. Like, Pato was a little bit rougher out of the gate in IndyCar, but this year he was very unlucky not to win 2 races. Like, he lost out on Road America on the final lap of the race. Like, Pato Award is really goddamn good. Like, Colton Herta is really goddamn good. Like, you couldn't ask for much more out of a younger driver in IndyCar than what those two are doing right now. And their racing was fantastic. Like, the fight that Colton Herta and Rinus VeeKay had during the Harvest Grand Prix, chef's kiss. They were phenomenal out there. That was racing at its absolute finest. Like, hard. It was firm, but it was fair. And Bilal sums it up better than I ever could in the chat. The issue is not the talent. It's there's not enough seats. IndyCar are a little bit luckier because IndyCar's got 24, 25, like, full-time seats next year. Formula One's got 20, and Formula One is not going to have a new team anytime soon to join the grid. It's not happening. The way the sport is, the initial startup costs are insane. The cost cap's not going to fix that, and now they've slapped that £200 million entry fee to get into Formula One. So we're not going to have a new team anytime soon, because you now got to stump up 200 million quid before you've even turned the wheel. So there's always going to be talent missing out, because we're in a golden age for younger driver talent, and yet there's not enough seats to go around. Yeah, you're right, Nick, to a degree. Like, the IndyCar field just gets around a bit more. Indy Lights is not what it was. Some great talent has come out of that series in the last few years. But you're right, it's not technically homegrown, I guess you could say, to a degree. Rosenquist, I don't know why he left Formula E, to be honest with you. I'd love to tell you, but I can't give you an exact reason for that. But Rosenquist is great talent. He's just a fantastic driver. He just kills it in every series he's in. He's just a talented dude. Um, but yeah. Really hope Robert Wickens will be able to race again. I think he will eventually, Rahul. I think I the fact he was able to get back in a kart the other day was a fantastic sign of progress, and the fact he's even made it this far is remarkable given the crash that he had. And you're absolutely right. Wickens was superb in his rookie season in IndyCar. Again, another guy that should have won multiple races as a rookie. He was right up there in title contention early doors when he was in IndyCar. Great talent. Great talent. I hope he's able to find his old self down the road soon enough. Rosenquist nearing his 30s at this point. No, yeah, I think Rosenquist is 29, I think. It's 28, 29 years old. Yeah, 29, as Sid points out. Yeah. He's been around the block because the ladder to get into Formula One doesn't work. Like, it doesn't work. And the super license system is not working how it was intended to either. It's all one big old mess, unfortunately. And like you said, it all boils down to the same problem. This sport is not sustainable. And I think you're right. I think in the sense that I think he has matured late. Some drivers are late bloomers. Then some of them are not going to be as great when they're 20, but if they're given time to nourish and develop, they can come into play into their late parts of the career. I'm a MotoGP fan. Look at Johan Zarco. Johan Zarco didn't make his debut in MotoGP till he was 26, which in that sport now is really goddamn old. He nearly won on his debut in MotoGP, and he won 2 Moto2 championships, and he did 5 years in that class. It was similar for Tito Rabat, who became the first guy to try and defend a title he'd won in Moto2 because there wasn't a good MotoGP seat for him. Like, Rabat was in his prime when he was 25. So some guys are better on later in their careers. Like, everybody's different. Everybody develops in different ways. You know, sometimes it's nature, sometimes it's nurture, sometimes it's environment. There's a lot of different intangibles at play in that sense. So yeah, you just got to look at it a little bit differently. But let's have a quick look at the chat again. God, it's 8:40. I'm still going. Should I go till 9? Might as well go till 9. Let's make it around 3 hours. Why not, right? This has actually been really good. It's been really fun. Yeah, can't disagree with any of that. The 200 million entry, yeah, it's a disaster. It is an absolute disaster. That was the worst thing the FIA could have possibly done. Objective, like, I get it. I get why they wanted to put it in. They wanted to protect the future of the sport for the teams, without realizing that no entity is, besides big name manufacturers, are gonna have 200 million in spare cash to throw around. No one's sitting on that sort of money, okay? Not unless you're like a VW group or something like that. No private investor's gonna have 200 mil just knocking around like that. Not unless you're a super billionaire or something along those lines. Like, if you're not in the top 4 in Formula 1 as it is, you're losing money, most likely. So, yeah, you're spot on, Nick. Audi weighed up how much it would cost to build a Formula 1 team from scratch. I think they did this about 3 or 4 years ago. Like when they said, like, there were rumors at the time that Audi might buy the Red Bull team, were thinking about quitting, which was just more of Red Bull having a bitch and moan. When Audi ran the numbers, They said to start an F1 team from scratch would cost $1.3 billion. With a B. No one's throwing around that sort of money to get into Formula One. For what? You're never going to get a return on your investment. Like, not in a bajillion years. And that was before Dieselgate happened, as Cam points out. After that, forget it. Like, honestly. Like, the only way you're getting into the sport is if you're buying an existing team, because it's 1,000,000 times cheaper. Like, literally 1,000,000,000 times cheaper. Like, you're not going to get a new team in F1 anytime soon. Forget it. Don't even bother. And it'll only get worse if teams eventually drop out, which there's a possibility they will, because this economy has been hit super hard due to COVID. It's only going to get worse. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. You know, so, you know, it's... Yeah, the 200 mil... Sibasiso, sorry if I pronounced your name wrong there. The 200 mil gets given to the other teams. It's basically like a guarantee that you're not going to basically quit. It's like the FIA wants to have more of a commitment towards its towards like a new team coming in. They want to make sure they'll stick around. So yeah, pay 200 mil up front, and we're going to give it to everybody else to protect their futures. That's what it's for. It's dumb. Because no one is going to pay that sort of cash, especially knowing it's going to directly fund their rivals. So yeah, it ain't happening. Top 5 Seb wins? Good question, Dom. Singapore 2013, I would say. I'm a big fan of that one. Always have been. Hungary 2015 was Malaysia 2015 were big wins. I really enjoyed them. You kind of have to put Monza 08 in there for obvious reasons. Let me think. Japan 2013 was one of my favorites as well. That was a good one. I'm trying to think. Like, was there a fifth one that really stood out to me? Good question. There's 4, certainly. I'd have to give the 5th one a bit more force. But, I cannot endorse Abu Dhabi 2010. It was a terrible Grand Prix to watch. It was awful. Personally. But, because, like, honestly, and this is me being completely honest as a Sebastian Vettel fan, his wins generally are not normally super captivating. Like, Sebastian Vettel is a bit like Ronnie O'Sullivan in the sense of his strongest attribute is his ability to front run. Like, if he was at the front of the field, he was virtually unstoppable. That was his arguable greatest asset as a driver. That's what tended to make him so good. Unfortunately, it doesn't mean you're necessarily the most entertaining on paper. Nature of the sport, unfortunately. The fact that the 2022 regulations haven't attracted any new teams apart from that one rumor about Panthera is worrying for the future of the sport, is it not? Well, yeah. But at least to a degree, like... Good shout, by the way, Dom, for Bahrain 2018. At least the sport has finally realised it has a running cost problem. That's half the battle, quite frankly. So I'm glad that there's a cost cap coming. Not so keen on the driver salary cap. But I'm glad that, the aero regulations are coming into play a little bit that will run that concession system down. I like the fact that they looked at MotoGP's model and thought, this might work. Because that's what MotoGP did 4 years ago. They standardized the ECUs, they gave more money to the independent teams, and look at what difference it's made to the sport. Because before then in MotoGP, in MotoGP before 2016, you only won if you were in a blue bike or an orange bike. Then they standardized the electronics. Then they gave more money to the independents who could actually develop their bikes and have better deals with the other factories. So they could run modern day bikes that weren't always a year behind. And then the sport got better. The independents actually was able to win semi-frequently. And look, let's put it to you like this. We've had 7 race wins in MotoGP this year from independent bikes. 6 of them from Petronas. 3 each from Quartararo, 3 from Morbidelli, and we had Miguel Oliveira win a Grand Prix too. And Bagnaia probably should have won one as well at Misano. So, the fact that it's not just factory dominance at the top, yeah, it's great. And look, Suzuki, that only just came back about 5 years ago, has just won 2 major championships and has a good shot at the Triple Crown next weekend. And as Cam was quite right to point out, Suzuki were nowhere 2 years ago. They've just won the championship, and they've just won the team's championship. And they've got a good chance at the Triple Crown next week. The sport is in a super healthy position, because Dorna put more of their money where their mouth was and realised what the problems were. Formula One has not done that. Formula One is late to the wagon. It's finally doing something about that. We won't see the true impact for a couple of years, but, it's a step in the right direction. And you're absolutely right. Davide Brivio deserves a shit ton of credit. He's done an incredible job building that team back up from the ground up, because they lost an elite talent in Maverick Vinales a couple of years ago, and they rebuilt. Joan Mir, everybody loved him in the paddock. There was no guarantee Joan Mir was going to work out. This is a man that has won 1 Grand Prix in 3 years. And Mir has won the championship. Alex Rins is going to be one of the favourites next year. He is a superb rider, Alex Rins. World class. Sylvain Guintoli deserves a ton of credit as test rider for developing a brilliant motorcycle. The design team, like Sean O'Kane in the back as well, they've all done tremendous work. Suzuki has put together a hell of a package. They are now the gold standard for the sport. They don't have a major weakness. And they've done a brilliant job, and they deserve all the plaudits in the world. Davide took a punt on Joan Mir 3 years ago, took a chance on him when every other factory was lining up, when Mir could have easily ended up with another factory. They got him at Suzuki, and he's won him a champion. Their first champion in 20 years. Some remarkable achievements. Buy BT Sports instead of Sky Sports F1, my man. MotoGP is just an objectively better series. And even if you don't like the GP so much, the support series like Moto 2 and 3, particularly Moto 3, is fantastic racing. It's the best racing in the world right now. Genuinely. It's fantastic stuff. Whew. My lungs are actually starting to hurt now. I've been talking too much. Got about 7 minutes. So if you've got any time for any last questions, get them in now. Still got, 19 of you guys still watching. Fantastic. Wow. That's incredible. Thank you for sticking around. Some of you guys have been here for the better part of 3 hours. It's bonkers. Go watch MotoGP, Nick. That's the biggest endorsement I will ever say. It's the best motorsport series in the world right now. And anyone that argues with me is wrong. I don't have a lot of hard takes like that, but MotoGP is just an objectively better sport than Formula One. And it has been for some time. And that's even with Marquez being as dominant as he is. Trust me, the product is great. Is Rossi completely past it at this point? Valentino, obviously. I wouldn't say he's completely past it, but we evaluate Valentino in the context of major championships and race wins. Rossi himself has admitted he hasn't got the ultimate pace to keep up with the sport's best anymore. And that's a little sad. He's 41 years old. I can't, it's hard for me to call a guy at 41 washed because we haven't had a 41-year-old in the top flight like this since the Stone Age. He's still good enough, I think, for top sixes when he's fully healthy. The point I was going to make was, and this is a point that Matt Oxley made on Twitter, this past weekend, him finishing that second race in Valencia, that was the first time he'd finished a MotoGP race since the middle of September. 2 months ago. Due to a combination of crashes and COVID-19. So it's probably a bit and apparently Rossi had symptoms. So he's probably nowhere near 100% right now. What Rossi needs right now is a fresh off-season and a rest. Because look at it this way. He's going to arguably the best team in the sport next year. A team that won 6 Grand Prix this year. Remember, Fabio's won 3 rounds, Morbidelli's won 3 rounds. Yamahas have still won 7 out of the 13 races in MotoGP this year. It's impossible to say Yamaha are bad. And real talk, the SRT team has been better than the factory team this year. So him going to join SRT's crew might be the best thing to happen to Valentino at this point in his career. He's going to a team that might actually better run the Yamahas that they've got than the factory team has. Wouldn't surprise me if Rossi's back on the podium on a semi-regular basis next year. And he's got a good yardstick in his teammate in Frankie Morbidelli there next year. Who, again, is one of the riders of the year. No doubt in my mind about that. So, I wouldn't necessarily say Rossi is quote-unquote cooked just yet. Give it another year, then we'll talk. Yeah, Britain 2018 is a good shout as well, Dom. Definitely. That'll just about do it, I think. I think I'm going to call it a night right there and then. Just before we go, I know I spoke a lot about MotoGP today. If you are interested, you might want to buy a book about it. I talked about the Valentino Rossi kick from 2015 and a lot about the backstory of the motorsport situation. It's in here. So if I do say so myself, it's a pretty fun read. Check it out. Beautiful front cover by Hayley Mulcahy, who you might know her on Twitter as Hayley Mulch. She's a babe. Thanks to her as always. It's my stream. I'll plug what I want, Cam. As soon as I go off, actually not as soon as I go off. Tomorrow, I will publish the video version of our latest episode. I'm talking about the second Aragon race, which Frankie Morbidelli actually won. We can talk about that as well. We are catching up still a little bit on video podcast releases. So I think we're still 2 behind. Luckily, we're probably not going to record an episode next week because there is no Formula One and no MotoGP this weekend. They're both on gap weeks before Formula One comes back at Bahrain. MotoGP has their season finale at Portimao. We'll probably got a bye week. So we'll probably just use that week to catch up more than anything else. So check us out then. And if you liked what you heard from me, subscribe. There's yet more of it on this channel. You know, video blogs, podcasts, you name it. It's all there. If you don't know me on social media, you can also follow me on Twitter at Harrison101HD as well. But thanks for having me. Thanks for gracing an audience with my presence. I'll definitely do one more of these before the UK comes out of a quote-unquote national lockdown. I'll probably do another one of these during that gap week. So maybe not this week, the week after, something like that. I certainly want to do one more before I'm back at work. So, yeah, I'll put the word out a few more days in advance. But thanks to everyone that's tuned in and listened in and watched and asked questions. It's no fun without you guys. Do really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching and listening in. I've been Dre Harrison. Thank you very much. And I will talk to you guys all soon. Take care.